check, check. Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, we have to close our closed session that we're just coming out of.
No action taken.
And there is no action, or are we adding to the agenda then?
Following closed session, council anticipates adding a resolution for consideration.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to close?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
May I interject? We do have to have a public portion for the special meeting. So if anybody has a comment to make on the special meeting agenda only at this time.
Anyone on the special agenda item? Seeing none, we can close.
Okay. And now if there, I'm sorry, a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Do I have a motion? Again?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, time is 6:06, Mayor, if you'd like to call the work session to order.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Today is a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape May, New Jersey. We are here in the City Hall Auditorium. It is Wednesday, February 1st, 2022. The time is now 6:06. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Under the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cape May County Herald and the Press of Atlantic City, and a copy of the agenda was delivered to each member of City Council and posted on the Cape May City website and Cape May City Hall Bulletin Board. Notice is hereby provided that Cape May City Council meetings are audio recorded and video streamed live. Live video streams are posted to the Cape May City website. The City of Cape May is not responsible if audio recording or live video streaming of a meeting is unavailable. Roll call. Councilmember Baldwin?
Here.
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Mayor Mullick?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Here.
Councilmember Yeager?
Here.
City Solicitor Gillen Schwartz?
Here.
City Manager Vall is absent. We have Deputy City Manager Belasco.
Here.
And Deputy City Clerk Dillon is present, will be momentarily. First on the agenda, we have a few additions and deletions. Mayor and Council, if you would like me to read those off for you.
Please.
Okay. Our first addition is Resolution 63-02-2022, resolution appointing members to the Cape May City Planning Board. We have Resolution 64-02-2022. This is a resolution in support of the County of Cape May plans to improve Pittsburgh Avenue, County Road number 622. And we have Resolution 65-02-2022, resolution authorizing a professional services contract for Vincent Pisa Esquire from Archer & Griner PC as special counsel to the City of Cape May. If we would like to motion to add those to the consent or regular agenda, Council.
I'll make a motion, or you,
Sarah,
maybe I'll just do it when we go towards, we're not going to put them all on the consent agenda,
you want
correct?
on the regular agenda? That's fine. We can do them separately later. Is that okay?
Okay,
So
I'll make a motion then.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Okay. First on the agenda, Mayor, we have two proclamations.
Okay. I think we have a presentation from the Harriet Tubman Museum. It's an honor to have with us Hampton Taylor. Hampton, if you want to say a few words, you can turn on the microphone if you would up there.
Good evening. I'm Hampton Taylor, president of the Harriet Tubman Museum. Tonight is my pleasure to present to you two ladies who have contributed so much to our community. These two ladies are Carolyn Davis and Emily Dempsey. I'm going to turn things over to the mayor.
Reverend Harris, I always hate to follow you, but I'll ask you to go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. It's not following me, it's following this man right here. I'm going to continue to follow him. We're here tonight just to celebrate two outstanding women in the community. Can we have a round of applause? We're here to celebrate two special members of the founding team of the Harriet Tubman Museum of New Jersey. They both contributed in many ways, and they both are great individuals who continue to strive for the best in the community, who continue to live godly ways, and we just thank them for that. Tonight, we're here to celebrate Miss Emily Dempsey. She has been the primary force in achieving the contributions of the African American community in Cape May. She's been the primary force in archiving the contributions of the African American community in Cape May. I'm gonna go off script for a second, and I'm not gonna be long, but you know what? Without this lady, a lot of people would not know the history of Cape May. And it's a great thing, you know, if you know anything about the African American community, one of the best ways that we learned is the oral history from those that came before us. So you have a young lady who's been a pioneer, who's been placing things in order, who's been collecting artifacts, who's been collecting historic papers, who I heard this morning, because we were hanging out, I heard this morning that you grabbed the map out of the old AME building. See, it takes somebody with wisdom to know what to grab. It takes somebody with wisdom to make sure that things are there so that it's able to be taught to those younger. And we just thank her for that. She was honored last year because she is the descendant of the Cape May County she is the descendant of Cape May members of the 22nd Regiment of the U.S. colored troops who fought for the cause for freedom in the Civil War. You know, that's going way back, and we thank her for that. She's just been a focal figure in the community, a vocal figure in the community. It's always great when she speaks, because you always learn something new every time she comes. So we just like to thank her. And also, we want to thank Ms. Carolyn Davis, who is the matriarch of the last family to live in the Howe House. The Howe House is the Harriet Tubman Museum. So she knows the nooks and crannies, she knows the nails, she knows everything that's been in there, because that used to be her house, as her husband, who pastored Macedonia Baptist Church for 47 years, and she lived there with her sons, Robert and Kendall. And you know what? It's good to have people like this in the community. Once again, she went through her artifacts, and she helped furnish the artifacts for the Harriet Tubman Museum. If you haven't been, you need to go. This morning they were on Fox 29. They handled themselves very well. And when they asked, why should you go see the Harriet Tubman Museum? Because you know what? It's history. And the beautiful thing about history is these two are making history now. And what we got to continue to remember is they both are standing strong in this journey. They both are doing what they're supposed to do, and that is to lead the younger people to be positive role models within the community. So once again, we're here to celebrate them for the next year, for 2022. We're just looking forward to the things that they're going to bring forth, they're going to continue to speak, and they're going to continue to do. So before I take my seat, can we give them another round of applause?
I told you I'd never want to follow him, but it's quite an honor to honor these two ladies this evening. And Emily and Mrs. Davis, could you come on up, please? Come join me up here, please. Okay. First, Mrs. Davis, whereas Carolyn Davis has been a staple of the Cape May community for the past 50 years, and whereas Mrs. Davis was an active member and is an active member of the Macedonia Baptist Church, of which her late husband, Reverend Robert Davis, was pastor for 47 years. Whereas throughout her years of service, Mrs. Davis has been and has acted as the Macedonia Baptist Church organist, president of the Education and Entertainment Club, senior advisor of the Progressive Workers, platinum member of the Atlantic City chapter of the Links Incorporated, and whereas Mrs. Davis is a key contributor to the Harriet Tubman Museum, in which she has graciously loaned her late husband's extensive collection of African American artifacts art to be displayed. And whereas the city of Cape May hereby recognizes Mrs. Carolyn Davis for her years of service and thanks her for sharing the late Reverend Davis's priceless collection with the city of Cape May and our community, and we thank you greatly. Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Yeah. And let me knock out Mrs. Emily Dempsey here. And also, just as importantly, Mrs. Emily Dempsey was born as a fifth-generation resident of the city of Cape May. And whereas Mrs. Dempsey has devoted her life to serving her community as a successful businesswoman, friend, neighbor, and mentor to our youths. Whereas Mrs. Dempsey played an instrumental role in the founding of the Community Center of the Arts, an organization which has significantly impacted the rehabilitation, revitalization, and preservation of various historically significant African American buildings, such as the Allen AME Church, the Franklin Street School, and former Macedonia Baptist Church parsonage, of course, which is today the Harriet Tubman Museum. Whereas Mrs. Dempsey actively loaned the Harriet Tubman Museum key artifacts and photographs which have shaped exhibits throughout the museum and provided significant information regarding the city's African American history, which has been vital to the creation of the museum's legacy room. Whereas Mrs. Dempsey continues to act as a community role model, sharing her invaluable knowledge of the city's African American history with future generations. And whereas the city of Cape May recognizes and hereby recognizes Mrs. Emily Dempsey for her years of service and thanks her for her dedication to the Cape May community. Thank you very much, Emily. Very much. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Hampton. Oh, one more photo? Okay. Hey, come on up. Please, come on up. One quick. Okay. So if anyone would like to not watch the rest of the meeting, which I'm sure there's not many of you who wouldn't want to wait around and talk about our taxes and the beach tags, et cetera. But if not, you are excused. And again, we thank you very much for your contributions. Yes. They're level. Thank you. Update from our Deputy City Manager, Lou. Do you have any updates?
Yes, Mayor, I do. First and foremost, I would like to recognize some of our employees that have retired after years of service to the city of Cape May. This month, we had Sergeant Ken Cooper, retired with 20 years of service. Principal Payroll Clerk Stacy Hallbrunner has retired with about 35 years of service. Wow. And our Administrative Clerk, which is her technical title, in DPW, is Pat Diarco, and she is retired with 35 years of service with the city also. So we had a lot of institutional knowledge walk out the door this month, and into a well-deserved retirement. So we wish them well, and I'm sure we'll be seeing some of them around town still. So along those lines, we also have a phone issue at City Hall, which, except for a few offices, all of our phones are out of commission. A defective phi bridge caused the outage. We are currently waiting on a new unit to be delivered, which, given current supply chain issues, we can't really put a timetable on it. We're working with Comstar to see if we can forward some of the numbers to city cell phones. In the meantime, we have a notice up on our social media and on our website for people to contact staff either via email or they can still leave a message. We're still able to check our voicemails, and we will return phone calls very quickly. And that only affects City Hall. Allen AME Church, everybody just left, but I'll announce it anyway. They had we started the first part of stabilization and weatherization for Phase 1, which was the clearing out of some of the fire damage on the interior. And we will be looking to bring a contract to council shortly for the rest of the stabilization work.
Hey, can I just ask one quick
Sure.
question about that? Just because I saw some of the things where the pews are not being thrown away, correct?
No, they are currently stored.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the pews, the communion rail, communion table, some of the benches that were up on the altar. They're all stored. We were even able to save I don't know if anybody's familiar, but there's a canvas picture that was at the front of the church. We were able to take that off and save that, and they're all in storage right now.
Okay. Now, real quick question about the fire damage. Did we take down all the plaster walls or just the fire damaged walls?
We took down all of the plaster walls. They were all either fire or smoke damaged.
They all had to be taken down? Because I thought that was to keep the plaster walls as part of that $750,000 grant that we were getting from the state, that it specifically said that we had to restore the plaster walls.
No. We may have to restore them, but we couldn't leave the smoke damaged walls in the church.
Okay, so we did remove all the plaster walls?
Yes. Water bills also had a slight delay in being sent out. As of today, almost all of them were mailed. The only ones that have not been mailed at this time were ones where we had to add a late fee to.
A question about that. Are they postcards or actual?
They're actual letters.
Okay. Are we going back to the postcards?
I have scheduled a discussion with Rob Kaminsky before the next billings go out to discuss whether we do postcards or letters.
Because that's a big price difference between mailing out a whole letter versus a postcard.
Correct. Among some other issues. So we will have a conversation about that and make a decision as to whether we move back to the postcards. We met with an architect at the beach tag and ticket sales office to get a second quote. We discussed the rehab of the interior of the structure in the hopes of including a public restroom while retaining our storage and office space. We currently have applied for a grant to update our HPC design guidelines. And we still have four open positions currently advertised within the Civic Affairs and Tourism Department. We recently brought on a clerk and a firefighter. And also, just to give a real brief storm update, our DPW and police and fire departments did an outstanding job. We do not get blizzards very often, and for their response to that really shows the level of preparedness that goes on within the city. I drove around a couple different towns, and I just selfishly have to say that our streets were the best. They did a fantastic job. They worked through the night on Saturday. Our OEM was also set up within the Department of Public Works. Our volunteers stood ready to man the shelter should it be need. Thankfully, our power did not go out, and we did not have to man the shelter. But they were ready, and they had all responded, and were all in town and ready to serve. So it was an overall successful operation, and the level of preparedness was just amazing.
I just want to ask, just for advertisement's sake, what are the 4 openings that we have for the convention hall?
They're on the website. I would have to
Okay.
check. I don't have
That's
them
right.
written
I'm sorry, I
down.
didn't mean to put you on
No,
the
that's
spot. I
okay.
just thought I could do a little advertising.
Yeah, go to capemaycity.com, and the open up in places are right there under employment. And please send any resumes to employment@capemaycity.com. Don't call us.
Council, I do have the website up if you'd like to know. We've got a recreation aid for roller skating staff, recreation program coordinator, recreation aid for operations, event sales and operations coordinator. And there's actually another one, recreation aid pool lifeguard. Some are full-time, some are part-time. But all of those are listed on our website.
Or do we have the swim program going on this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for the update. And you did mention the OEM volunteers, so I'll give them a little plug. They are looking for more volunteers for the
Yes.
OEM. If anyone would be interested in that, that's the Office of Emergency Management for Cape May City, looking for volunteers if you would be wanting to do that. That is OEM@capemaycity.com.
Correct.
So if you're interested in volunteering for the Office of Emergency Management, that's OEM@capemaycity.com. And thank you for those updates. City Solicitor?
Just to piggyback off of Deputy City Manager bringing up the beach tag office. I brought up at the last council meeting the expiration of the Mermaids lease coming up in March. And I just wanted to recommend to council that I think the last time that went out to auction, there was a 10-year and a 5-year discussed. And I think that the 5-year, that we ended up landing on the 5-year, the prior administration did. And I think with the idea of maybe if something else if the city wants to do something else with that building, would have the option to do so. I just wanted to present that because I think that you either do something else with it or you give a tenant the ability to know that they have it for a significant amount of time and potentially invest in improvements. But I just wanted to present that because we're running out of time on that. We still have time to do the auction process, but I just wanted to present that as food for thought for council. If anybody has any thoughts on that, please reach out to me because I'll be working on the auction packet in the coming days.
Is the thought there that a 10-year lease maybe encourage people to better fix up the property, basically?
That's the idea, and you could potentially have 5-year options. We have the option to do that under Title 40, but that
Just something to think about. Yeah. Okay.
Is that something that we could bring up in a closed session? Because, there's other nuances to the whole last few years that I think would be best discussed with City Council, not in front of the public.
Sure, I didn't mean to bring that up to get into the details. I just wanted to present the concept that it is coming up for expiration, and council will have to determine which direction they want to go.
Let's put a closed session on the next. Well, next meeting, let's put a closed session on.
Okay,
Okay. Anything further?
nothing.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have our discussion I didn't see Ed Rotz here. We have the proposed changes, 3-day beach tag, beach supervisor.
We can discuss it.
Yeah, yep.
Council does have his written recommendations. If there's anything you might want to discuss, I'm sure we can reach out to Ed with some questions if council has it.
Yeah, I think our big thing has to do with, do we want the, I think the big thing is, do we want the daily? Or no, do we want the 3-day? That was one where we had tabled it because we wanted further discussion on that.
And he's suggesting that we do away with the 3-day tag.
Right.
Yes, the suggestion that we got from Ed was the elimination of the 3-day. And as you can see, we're the only town that does the 3-day tag. And yes, it does ease the burden of enforcement, but it also has gotten to the point where, I'm going through his summary, I don't see it, but I've heard him say it enough times that they hardly sell any because it's cheaper for people to buy a weekly pass than to buy the 3-day. It makes more sense, they get the 2 days. So his ask is to eliminate the 3-day and just sell the daily, the weekly, and of course the seasonal.
But now the weekly goes from Saturday to Saturday, correct?
I do believe that's the case, and there was talk about council potentially changing that from a Friday to Friday to account for rentals, or vice versa, I'm not sure.
To fall more in line with the rental schedule?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he had in here Friday, starting the weekly tag on Friday.
Yeah, I guess he's not here. I'd like to know if anybody knows what the other municipalities do. They do Friday to Friday or Saturday to Saturday?
Most of the changeovers are Saturday to Saturday.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
too.
So, I mean, and I know we were thinking about it when we originally discussed this, is because if somebody's coming down for a weekend
Right.
and they can do the 3-day, that was the thought process, I think, that we had behind that.
Right, they did 3-day, be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, exactly. And that's why we decided to table it until we got some additional information.
So do we want to ask Ed to be at the next meeting maybe and kind of give us that presentation?
Well, I think we could, but we have two separate issues, as I see it, is that one is the elimination of the 3-day, and the other one is the change of the weekly schedule. The weekly schedule one, yeah, there needs to be more discussion on that one. The 3-day, it just appears like we're not selling any, we're still having to print them, we're losing money on having the 3-day tag when people are saving or buying the weeklies.
What's the 3-day tag price?
It is, give me say prices, $8 for a daily, $20 for a weekly, and then a 3-day,
I don't think he listed it.
he doesn't.
Yeah, that's not.
No, he has, he
that's not-
does have, it's a $20 weekly,
feel like-
I'm sorry, yeah, you don't have the 3-day here. 3-day visitor,
I think it's maybe 10.
Just an idea, and I'm not saying I agree with it.
Well, it has
but
to be.
To talk about it. What if we just had one 3-day that was Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
A weekend.
You just have
Just
a
do a-
weekend.
Yeah.
That way they're not worrying about when they're punching, when the 3-day, just a thought.
I think this is a typo.
I think that
Because
is
it's
a
a
typo.
$25 weekly, he's got $8 daily, I think it's $20 for the 3-day. And your savings is $5 to go to a week at $25. Right, oh, that's the point, okay.
Used to be
There you
12.
go.
There you go.
3-day used to be 12 weeks.
From an experienced beach
Heard from
tagger, we
already.
have some authority.
Good.
Okay.
You didn't have it in there, huh?
I mean, at this point, if we have him come back and discuss this at our next meeting, we can at least research what other municipalities do as well.
But, I mean, I know they keep talking about the 3-day. The issue with that is how they punch it. So if you
Right.
just had, this is the only time you can have a 3-day.
If you just have a 3-day.
If you just have a 3-day, this is the only time we offer it.
And the
I think
beach
that makes a lot of
taggers,
sense. Because I got
That way we're getting the weekend people, they're coming down Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
people from the accommodation community reached out to me and said that accommodates their weekend, visitors. So that makes a lot of sense. I can work with that.
But it's only one weekend, and how do you distinguish between different weekends?
You would have to do different
You'd have
colors
to
per
Do
week.
different colors or
weekend.
something, instead of the punching.
The math suggests it's $16.
And when, Lou,
According to this.
Deputy Manager, when is the deadline for us to put this out for printing?
We got to get them out soon.
Soon?
Yeah. I don't
Well-
know the exact deadline, but it's coming up.
Then let me suggest this. What are the questions that council has for Ed, so that next time we kind of know what we need answered to make a decision? That make sense, everybody? Let me just add this to it. I've heard from multiple beach taggers, and I understand, look, they have to do their job, but they don't like having to punch each of the tags, which is a pretty antiquated way of doing it, so I understand that thought.
Do they punch for the daily?
Uh,
Or are they different color every week?
I think they punch daily as well. I think you punch it daily.
The daily and the 3-day? Okay.
I think it needs to be said,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
so just for the people at home, understand that one of our audience members is a beach tagger, and they said that the beach taggers punch the tags on daily and 3-day tags, just so everybody's aware of what's going on.
And he likes this proposal.
That
Okay.
does away with the 3-day.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we got to make a decision on this by the next council meeting. So why don't we pack this away, but think about it for the next meeting, and
The 3-day is $15.
thank you. 3-day, did you hear that? 3 days, $15.
And what's a weekly?
Weekly is 20.
20.
Okay, they're saving $5 by going with a week versus the 3-day.
Because they're getting the full boat.
And just so I have the whole, what's the daily?
8.
Daily's 8.
Thank you.
8.
Okay, well, let's all think about this. If you have any comments or questions, you call me. Let's try to nail it down for the next meeting. Does that sound good, everybody?
We'll be in touch with Ed.
Let's make sure we ask Ed about if we just had a 3-day that was just a weekend 3-day.
Say that one more time.
That if we just had the 3-day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that was the only time that you can ever have
Okay.
a 3-day, would be on the weekend.
Okay.
I'll forward that question to him.
Okay, any other discussion on that topic?
I just think that covers people that are only coming down for the weekend, that don't want to really buy.
Right.
You know, that's a lot of people have second houses, that's the only time they can come down here anyway sometimes, or the people they rent it out to.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next discussion topic is Municipal Taxation and Revenue Advisory Committee direction from council.
Yes, I put this on the discussion as a liaison to the M-TRAC, and as for all committees, I think as a council, we have to give direction. I think that's important that we put these committees in the right direction so they don't start doing things that we're not interested in or we don't want done. And I think we should discuss what we think we would like them to do so that we can direct them. One of the suggestions that I have is that maybe put M-TRAC on with what is West Cape May and Cape May Point for fire or for police. And if we go to renew the contract, what facts do we need to know? So that we're going into these discussions for renewal of the contract in 2025, I think it is? Or 2023? 25? That we have the right facts and that we know where we're headed with it. And that we can also bring them in earlier to these discussions too. So we're not doing this at the last minute, but we're gathering the facts so we know what we're looking at and how much it actually costs the city to support West Cape May and Cape May Point. And that's to get them all the figures, retirement, litigations, or any kind of lawsuits,
Makes sense.
coverage.
Okay. Any other direction right now, or obviously?
Suggestions?
Suggestions. Obviously, we can provide more direction and suggestions as we move forward, but if nothing else, food for thought, what direction and what things we'd like them to look at specifically.
The
Any
other-
thoughts?
Yeah, the other thing that I was thinking of, because we have some upgrades that we're going to be doing with the desal plant. We have water contracts that are out there. They're, I think, on staggered schedules as well, between the Coast Guard base, West Cape May Point. I think maybe that might be another idea.
It's kind of similar to the police contract.
Right.
That would be
Well-
sooner, though, so that'd be something that,
So maybe
like,
any
there's two
contract,
projects, and then deal with the one, the other one is just
Yep.
in the back.
Yeah.
maybe any contracts with our neighbors? Okay?
It's not a bad idea.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
no.
know where
A
we're
lot
at.
of good information that comes out of M-Track.
Yep. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions?
Not with-
Brainstorm and we'll make sure they're getting direction from us. Okay. Lafayette Street and Pittsburgh Avenue paving.
I also requested this to be put on, and I want to talk about Lafayette Street is being pushed back for paving, and I wanted to, I have Dawn Austin here from the school, president of the school board, and I'd like for her to talk about the safety concerns that are related to the paving of Lafayette Street School.
Dawn, do you want to join us at the microphone, please? Thank you.
I first would like to say and thank the city and Public Works also for communicating with us on Sunday to make sure all the kids who are walkers and who live over at Broad Street could get to school, because there was no sidewalk available. And it was brainstormed with the city, the superintendent, to make sure that that was accessible. So a 2-hour delay was all we needed to accommodate, unlike some other schools that completely had to shut down. So I commend the city, and I cannot thank you enough for making sure our kids got to school.
Thank you.
I just wanted to discuss the bump-in, which we all refer to it. It goes back to about 2019, if not sooner. We've had several instances of, there's been accidents, which I've witnessed personally, cars getting crashed into in front of the school during drop-off pickup. The chief can also attest to many accidents, close calls, kids running out into the street sort of thing. So we started out with putting the signs up. It's a deterrent, but we're still having situations where parents are still pulling up. So this was a project that we were really excited for the safety of our children and for our parents. So when we thought we were going to get this bump in, where we decided on it, we were super excited. Mr. Mullock also came to the school at one point and said, hey, listen, I think this is super important. I think this is, a #1 priority sort of situation. So what we're happening now is we're told that it's going to possibly be pushed off till 2025. That's a really long time, and I really would like you to consider the fact that right now our children are being dropped off and picked up in a pool. There's a lot of situations where parents don't follow the rules, they're going out of line. Teachers can't get in and out of the parking lot. Parents, are taking too long. We've also had instances during the storm where parents still decided to pull up in front of the school. The car is blocking traffic going toward Collier's area, and they're letting their kids, kind of climb over the big snow piles and everything, which can also cause a problem. So I just wanted to let you know that we do have the support of, like I said, the chief and the safety aspect of making sure that we could please not put this off for as long as you are suggesting we do so. Because again, if there's an accident or situation during drop-off and pickup, which isn't a large amount of time, but it's becoming, they can't get fire trucks through there, they can't get ambulances, so it is just a great concern for our board, and we were very disappointed when we found out that this might not happen for longer than we expected.
They did promise you to be done this year, wasn't it?
It was anticipated, yes, to be completed by the spring of 2022. And this is notes that went back and forth. Mr. Inderwise did discuss this with us back in October of 2020, and he said that he spoke to Mr. Church, and the project will move forward. And the target was for fall 2021, which we knew didn't happen, for various reasons, but the spring of 2022 was our goal.
And even then, in my opinion, that was a conservative goal. It wasn't like some crazy time frame. So
Yeah, because like I said, this went back. I think you came back in 2019 and discussed it with us, of the
Yeah.
importance of, of having this bump in. It's it's just a simple bump in. You can get out of your car, you could walk around your car, So I think it's a huge concern for not only the city, but
Right.
for the school as well. So
And I
wanted to
think
just bring that to your
the
attention.
school board essentially agreed to give, I don't know the details of this, but some of the property to be able to do that, to push the
Absolutely.
sidewalk into the front of the school.
That's
So
correct.
It's a great, it's a need, it's not just a great project, it's a needed project. I'm one of the parents that have pulled up, we don't do it in front of the school anymore, but for good reason, because it's just so dangerous. You're just waiting for your kid to open the door, and there's literally no room
Yeah.
between the car that's going right by. And we've been lucky so far that we haven't had any significant injuries, but
Yeah.
that, we can't expect that to keep
And
continuing.
again, like I said, with the situation with the snow, as someone said, we don't get snowstorms often, but
Right.
one incident
Yeah.
of a misjudgment can cause, a serious accident for a child, and a parent.
Yeah, so I was really upset that, from the county's perspective, what I was hearing, that they were going to do Pittsburgh instead of Lafayette. And that's where I think as a council, we have to push back and say, we really need Lafayette Street done for safety reasons.
And Pittsburgh, but Lafayette
Yeah,
is
but
the
I mean,
most important,
Of
definitely.
course.
I mean,
of
to be
course.
honest with
I
you,
agree.
I think if you just look at the road surface, Lafayette Street is by far worse than Pittsburgh Avenue.
Look at it right now, the puddles from, everything looks bad right now, but you can see the settling and the puddles from it.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to get us a letter from the school board supporting this
Absolutely.
project, moving forward in a more
Of
timely
course, yeah.
fashion?
Yeah, because
Okay.
being here, I speak on behalf of the board, but I would absolutely,
I think that would be very helpful.
absolutely, yep. I
Okay.
can take care of that for you right away.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Thank you
you,
very
Dawn.
much,
Great,
and
thank
thank you
you
for your
very much.
service to the
Thank you.
city. We appreciate it. Deputy City Manager, do you want to comment on, I know we had a conversation with the engineer.
I could just say that the county engineer gave us the original schedule of 2025, and after much prodding, we were able to get a tentative schedule adjustment from him where he would schedule an advertisement for the project in December of 2022, which would permit a spring construction start in 2023, have a seasonal shutdown, and then resume work in the fall of 2023 for a spring 2024 completion. Now, the project does start at the Little Bridge, so that first section would be the Little Bridge down to Madison, and so the school would be on that second portion of it. And he did give us a bunch of caveats that this is tentative and all, depending on emergencies popping up and blah, blah, blah. But a letter from the school board would be of great help to send along to bolster our case that we need this road completed and completed quickly.
Because I keep thinking, or what I keep hearing, is that the county keeps pushing it off. This was supposed to be done the spring of this year, or actually, I guess, the fall.
Right,
Of
judging
2024.
from the timeline that Dawn just gave us, you can see it. It keeps moving back and moving back and. Okay, great.
In the letter, I think it would make, absolutely, yeah.
Because, I keep seeing that they're just trying to pacify us with dates. And I don't know, as a council, I think we got to take a stronger stance on this. And I don't know what we have to do to take a stronger stance, because we're talking about children's safety here, and we're talking
The entrance
not
to the
even
town.
2023, and the entrance into the city. And the first part, they wouldn't even be done, it'd be in the second phase because of where the school's located.
Right. And I also want to bring to everybody's attention that even on that tentative schedule, that's advertising at the beginning of this year. So if we moved them up to this month, you're still talking about quite a ways away before they are paving in front of the school. So that just shows the importance of us getting together with the school board and providing a letter to the county expressing our concerns and
I guess, Lou,
desires.
my question is, why are we just finding out now that they're not going to do the school? When did we get notified that they're not moving along with the timeline that we were told and the school was told? And that they moved Pittsburgh ahead of Lafayette?
Yeah, it was when we heard about Pittsburgh that came from the county engineer.
Yeah, and I can't answer for the county engineer, but I can only speculate. Two issues with Pittsburgh Avenue is, one, the gas company has I think, a number of projects that, or it's either one or a number of projects that they have for Pittsburgh Avenue this year. So it would be natural to pave after they do what they do. But also, it's a county road, but the state has agreed to fund the repaving.
Right.
The only question, Mr. Church would be, are you under the gun with the state? Do you have to complete the project in so much time in order to get the state funding? Which
We hope
I
so.
suspect that's, I
We hope
suspect
so.
that that's what's happened, but I don't know that for a fact.
And I'm assuming the state funding is because of the Coast Guard base?
I have no idea.
Ms.
Dawn, when you
Austin,
get the-
here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as she's walking up here, as far as the gas company is concerned, gas company's not real quick to do anything, because if we take a look at Lower Township on the entrance over the bridge, I mean, that's pretty bad there.
Yeah,
And that was right after it was
right
paved.
after they paved it.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, it looked that Lower Township did an excellent job getting it paved,
right.
and then,
Dug it up.
anyway.
So
Sorry.
part of our communication with the city has been, we get notes and updates on the park and various projects. So we ask for questions to be answered for each board meeting. And that was, we did question, the bike network project, but also the bump in. And the answer was, the Lafayette project has been pushed back slightly due to other concurrent road projects that we expect to be underway. The overall schedule is dictated by the Beach Avenue federal grant timeline. It says hard timeline in parentheses, and the resurfacing of Pittsburgh Avenue due to road conditions. So that's how we were explained. And this was at our last board meeting.
Now, Lou, that was when they were talking about, Bob Church was talking about, they had a detour Lafayette to Beach. And we said, as a city, we would allow them to detour onto our streets.
For Beach Avenue, their plan is to detour off of Beach Avenue up to Lafayette from Madison. And that's where we mentioned that we could allow them to move the vehicles onto Washington instead of Lafayette, if they were able to move Lafayette up.
Because now they're saying that they don't want to do Lafayette until they get done Beach first?
That was the original comment, yes.
I mean, because that's, I don't know, I think it's absurd.
Further back.
It says,
Well,
construction pushed back due to impending Beach Avenue construction. Bid spring 2024, start work September 2024, complete project by May 2025 as a rough timeline
Yeah.
for Avenue.
I don't know if we're going to have any road left on Lafayette by the time it comes to paving.
That's changed also.
Oh, okay, well, this is, we just received this from our last board meeting, so I'm just kind of
Yeah.
giving you the update as to.
Yeah, that
And like I said, I know things constantly are changing, and I just,
And a lot of it has to do with the federal authorization and the federal money that, and state money that the county is utilizing to pave these roads. And so they're not always in control of all of their deadlines, not to make excuses for them, but it's the truth. So the recent timeline for Beach Avenue is, they should be getting us pre-final plans for the resurfacing from Broadway to Pittsburgh within the next 2 weeks. This will receive federal authorization in September of '22. Construction will begin in the spring of '23 from Pittsburgh to Madison, then resume and be completed in the fall of '23/spring of '24. So right now, that's the current timeline for Beach Avenue.
Okay. I think one thing I'll just add to the conversation is, this is an assumption, but I think some of the county is waiting to see what's happening with this infrastructure bill. The city doesn't really care. We want to get the road paved. We have a safety issue. So I only say that because I know that the county is thinking, are we going to wait to see if some of these projects are going to be paid for on a federal level? And if not, but my argument to that would be from the city of Cape May is there are hundreds of miles of county roads, and it's not all going to be paid for through the federal government. So let's start with Lafayette Street.
I agree with that.
Right, right.
Can we actually even look at maybe just doing in front of the school like, first.
I could see that as phase one. I was
Yeah,
thinking the same
yeah,
thing.
and change the
Yeah.
phases, because it does seem to me it
Change
doesn't
the
make a
phases.
difference.
Because it'll be easier as far as detouring.
I agree. The only issue there would be construction during school hours, and I don't know, with the timeline being somewhat in flux, how that would work. I would assume they're not gonna do Lafayette Street in the summer, so it's gonna be during school hours, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think we all agree we're gonna push hard as much as we possibly can to have the county do this as quickly as possible. Chief?
Do we have to send a letter as a council saying this? Because I don't know if that was spent
I
more.
think we should, yeah. I think along with the letter from the school board,
You could do a resolution, Mayor,
let's pass a resolution,
with Ms. Austin's letter.
supporting the
Yeah.
quick, and again, the other thing too is the county has approached the residents of Cape May before with this project, saying that this is going to get started. Now, of course, those residents are coming to city council saying, when's this project starting? So we as a council have to say to the county, hey, we're getting questions from our residents because there was a presentation given to them that this is going to happen. Where are we at?
Yeah, and I think it's been almost 4 years that people have been coming up complaining about the road on Lafayette Street. It's not like
Absolutely.
just recently or just got bad. It's been bad for a number of years. And like I said, it's by far worse than Pittsburgh.
I think if we make this resolution, we have to also include the freeholders in receiving this resolution.
Right.
And I think, I don't have any documentation to prove it, but I think this has been going on for more than 4 years. I think they've been pushing this back Dennis probably knows better than anybody, that this has been going on for maybe 8 years.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Deputy Manager, but didn't we send a letter out to all of the residents on Lafayette Street as far as the gas line was concerned?
We were supposed to.
I think that was done. That was one of the, yeah, that was something that was done. Yeah, you got one, okay, so there we go.
And that's one of the
And
reasons
that was
people
one
are
of the
like,
reasons
you know,
we
what's
did that,
going on?
because the
Right.
county was going to,
Right.
you know, that was the first one that was going to be done.
Let's, we're going to have a public comment on this in just a moment, Before you say anything, Chief, I do want to say thank you to your staff.
You're very welcome.
The whole department did a wonderful job over
Absolutely.
this snowstorm, so thank you.
We appreciate that. It was a team effort by everyone involved there. Just to re-support Council's thoughts and echo that, and Ms. Austin's thoughts. She's approached us before on this, and this has been going on for more than 4 years. We, at the police department, and I could probably speak for the fire department, are in full understanding and cooperation that this project must be put first. It's, you know, we constantly get comments and questions from neighbors and the students' families that they're scared to turn in there, it's hard to get out. We have Miss Linda out there, our parking, our school guard, crossing guard. She's kind of at the beck and tail there of people pulling in and out. So if there's anything we at the police department can do, if, you know, we need to derive a letter or be a part of being in full support of this, absolutely. And in line with our future park that's going to go there, you know what I mean? We need to look at if there's any moratoriums to the area, if the gas lines are going to get put in there. But absolutely, we stand behind this being first, you know, and as Deputy Mayor said, you know, we kind of dictate who puts foot on our roads. Funding should not matter. Our kids should matter first. That's where I 100% agree.
Thank you, Chief.
I think we should also possibly solicit the Housing Authority, because their residents are directly affected, and their offices and,
That's a good idea.
and
Right,
residents are also on that street.
that's a good idea. Okay. So we're all on the same page with Lafayette Street. We want to get that done, but we're going to work on a resolution from council, work with the school board and the housing authority. I think that's a great idea. Anything from the police department, especially on the safety issue, I think is very important. Next, my favorite personal topic.
Hold on, we're doing Pittsburgh Avenue paving,
Oh,
sorry.
okay, go ahead.
Pittsburgh Avenue, there was changes made to the plans. Again,
Yes, so I should
Councilmember Yeager,
just quickly explain.
Councilmember Yeager, your microphone, please.
your microphone.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I should probably, I'm going to take this off, explain a little bit of background for anybody who wasn't here last time. We went through a proposal on the striping of Pittsburgh Avenue that came from the county engineer. Council looked at it and had a number of problems, and requested that I go back to the county on several issues. Number one is all parking was removed on Pittsburgh Avenue, both sides, from Missouri to Illinois, I believe it was. And also, there are only 3 turning lanes were in place on all of Pittsburgh Avenue. Several were cut out. We had public feedback that said not a good idea on eliminating the turning lanes. Council, as majority, felt that eliminating the turning lanes was not a good idea. They requested that they come back, and some of us felt that parking, it had to be put back in on the west side, which is where there are residences along Pittsburgh Avenue. And several members of council thought we should have it on the east side as well, but we agreed to just go back with parking on the west side. I talked with the engineer about all the changes, and he said, well, I think that actually we need, if we're going to put parking on the east side, on the west side, it needs to be on the east side too, for the exact same reasons that council members brought up, which is a more consistent and a safe flow of bicycle traffic, automobile traffic, and parking. So where we're at now is we are back with a design where we do have, it's from from Wisconsin, which is really where Texas Avenue begins. So from Wisconsin to Illinois, basically we're going to have 8-foot parking lanes, which is standard. There's going to be 2 5-foot wide bike lanes. There's just no parking there's no buffer to the parking side, and there's a 1.5-foot buffer, though, between the bike lane and the driving lane. That does not exist today. So in this proposal, we're introducing a buffer to the traffic. When you get to Illinois, going all the way to Virginia, the buffer between the bike path and the road increases from various, from a 1.5 to 2.5 feet. There's also going to be a buffer between the bike lane and the parking area, which is going to be anywhere from 6 inches to 2.5 feet. So it becomes a little bit safer. Once you get past that, it's pretty wide open. There's full parking. There are full buffers of 3 feet, basically, between the bike lane and the parking, and the bike lane and the driving lane. And all of Pittsburgh Avenue is going to be reduced to 10.5 feet in width, the driving lane, which is a good thing. It's kind of, it gives the feeling of you should be slowing down. Right today, there's 16-foot wide spots along Pittsburgh, and that kind of promotes a little bit of excessive speed. So we got everything we wanted, and there's still a relatively good protection for the bikes, and there's parking there on both sides. And the last item is the bump outs became a question. How big are they? There is a diagram up there, and the smallest bump out that's permitted for them to put in is 6 feet. It's a relatively small bump out. This is to help, of course, pedestrians crossing at the 2 major, very busy intersections of Delaware and Pennsylvania Avenues. And the bump out is a 6-foot radius all the way around. It's not even as wide as the parking lane itself, so it's not really that intrusive. And as we said last time, all of the drainage will be addressed by the county, making sure that we don't have puddling and flooding at the intersections we see it on today, like Pennsylvania Avenue.
So,
So,
Mr. Yeager, just to clarify then, everything's staying the same that is there now, except for we're making the driving lanes tighter, smaller.
Correct.
And adding a buffer to the bike lanes
That's correct, yes,
That's great.
yes.
and bump outs. Only
And-
bump
and-
outs on 4.
Yeah, the bump outs, and for people who haven't heard it before, where the bump outs are, they're putting in these rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which is when you're ready to cross the street, you push the button, and there's a flashing beacon. I didn't talk to Bob about the intensity of the beacon. I know
Right.
it's been a complaint, but I figured we've got some time before they get to that point.
Right.
I think that we will give input to the county that we got from people here, that we need brighter lights.
Right, because that was one of the complaints that I heard about the one in front of Wawa, was that you put the light on, but during the day, no one can see the lights. They're not intense enough.
So the county's asking for us to, they're looking for a resolution to say this is a good plan to
Is it,
stripe.
is it okay for the next agenda? Is that, or is there a timeline here?
I-
know it
On
was
the
pretty-
resolution,
He claimed there's a timeline. This is about as late as they can go, so if we could,
was this resolution added?
yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
it
was,
was added.
okay, that was
Added to the
added.
agenda.
Yes, it's
Now,
here.
I have
Oh, good.
I have a question for the solicitor.
And everything on.
Yeah, and, yeah,
good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, the solicitor did an excellent job of putting this together. Everything, the references to the detail
Right.
verbally and in PDF is there. So
But this
it's-
is my question, though. By us approving Pittsburgh Avenue, do we hurt ourselves for Lafayette Street?
No.
Okay, so I want to know.
Good. This project's better because of your involvement, really. I think this, you did a great job. Wasn't easy to sift through all this, but you did a very nice job with it, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I just add something to that, to your question, Deputy Mayor? I think that the county ultimately wants to work with the city. They have to work with us because their county roads run through the city of Cape May. But I do think that it is very helpful to get the feedback from interested parties, the Board of Education, the Housing Authority, when it impacts everybody, to let them know what is and what isn't a priority. So, and that flow of communication can happen, and that can reorient what they prioritize as well. So, to your point, giving approval for this, if you like this plan, we can walk and chew gum at the
I
same
guess,
time.
I guess what I'm hearing and seeing is that unless we stay on top of the county, we just get pushed aside? Is that what, we have to keep going to them and telling them that, hey, this is still a priority? Because, I mean, at what point do you become a pest saying that they tell you something's going to be done and then it's not done?
That's,
And at what point do we have to keep saying, hey, you know,
and that's why you have a city manager and a solicitor to be the pest, and to reach out to them. And Councilman Yeager did a good job of making that resolution really easy for me to write because, council made it clear that that was priority. We want to get this plan right, but we can do that on the next one too, so.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on Pittsburgh? Again, Mr. Yeager, you did a very nice job on this. It's definitely a better project because of your work on it, so we
Thank you.
appreciate it, and thank council for all your input on this one. Okay, again, one of my favorite topics, outdoor dining. And I just want to open it up with, of course, the reason we want to discuss this is give a good, solid game plan to all of our business owners, restaurants, bars. As you all know, at this point, the temporary outdoor dining has ended, and basically, some folks have reached out to myself as the mayor. Where do we stand for outdoor dining for this summer? Of course, the easy answer is go before the planning board, go before the zoning board, or HPC, which I can. I don't want to say the restaurant's name, but certainly there have been several restaurants. I'm thinking of one that more recently did go for their outdoor dining. They had to go through HPC because it was a historic property in the historic district. They did so. They had their plans, of course, approved through the planning, zoning, and HPC process. I don't know the details of those applications. I'm sure they didn't get exactly everything they wanted, but obviously it was a give and take, and finally the plan was approved. Now, the concern that I have, and I just state this, I'm not trying to push one way or the other, but are we going to have a ton of applications come in all at once to our planning, zoning, and HPC before this summer season? And is there other ways that we can help address that? Of course, I've spoken to all of you in regards to, and we had a draft ordinance written based on the existing ordinance that we can discuss. But I really just wanted to have an open table discussion with everybody where you think we should go with outdoor dining. I'll say this again, just from the outset, and I think most people would agree that outdoor dining itself was, I think, a success. I think a lot of our tourists like it. I personally liked it myself. I am not specifically talking about closing a street or anything like that, but just outdoor dining in general. I think, as all of us know, Cape May is one of the best restaurant, towns on the East Coast. So we want to do those things to support those businesses, but do so in a manner that is, something that is agreeable with our residents as well, which, as you all know, has been a balancing act in the city of Cape May for many, many years. So I kind of open up the discussion with that.
Mayor, I think we should start with the beginning, and I think the beginning is the established seating ordinance that we have.
Right.
And basically it says the applicant will put in an application. They have 30 days to get a response. It goes to the zoning official, the planning board engineer, city attorney, police, fire, any other appropriate parties. And then the application is deemed appropriate. And this ordinance has a framework of what kind of parameters that the applicant can, use, and such as, they can't create more seating. They have to have certain setbacks. There has to be certain safety aisles and things of that nature, receptacles and other stage and everything else has to be looked at. And I think if these applicants want to get started, I think now's the time. I think this framework works very well, and it doesn't necessarily make the applicants go in front of any particular board.
You're right.
And it's a good thing this came up in 2017 because it's really helped us over the last couple of years.
Right.
And I could probably thank one of the members of the audience for pushing this ordinance, but,
And I think, I also think during COVID, we've learned a lot, during the outdoor dining that we've had here. What do we want it to look like? But then I also think, I went back and I looked at that ordinance, and it's something that I think that we might need to look at it again to revise it, maybe not put the onus on one person as far as, having to maybe have, different members of cross-sections of the city that can look at an application, because there are certain things that we do want, certain things that we don't want. Like the mayor said, not in a public right-of-way, not in the street. We look at safety, we look at, we look at a lot of different things. Not exceeding their seating capacity is another thing. So, there's a lot of things that I think that we need to look at, and I think maybe the approach is kind of taking it the way that we approach the licensing ordinance as far as revising that. Maybe we should kind of take that approach to this as well.
I think we have to make sure that we do the proper channels. That's the planning and the zoning board, because I think it's important if you're going to be opening a lot of these restaurants that are in neighborhoods to outdoor seating. I think the people that live next door should have some input on how this affects their neighborhood. And, if a restaurant's putting dining in their backyard, but it backs up to a home, I think that home has every right to say, hey, and object to the fact that a business is going to be 3 feet from their door. And so I want to make sure that we don't take away citizens' ability to say, no, this is infringing on my rights. But still, I have no problem with there being outdoor dining, but we have to make sure that there's certain stipulations that are in place that, one, that we're not taking away parking, that they're not putting in parking lots or parking spaces because that's important. Cape May has a parking issue, and we can't be allowing seats to take up valuable parking spaces. And then also allowing citizens that are affected by this outdoor dining to have a say in yes or no to this.
Can I just jump on that one point? Because I think we all agree on that, obviously. We want to make sure the public has a time to jump in on any of these applications. Under the current ordinance, Mr. Solicitor, could you kind of walk us through the steps? Is that, under the current ordinance?
If you do nothing about this.
Right.
You have section 412, which is the outdoor seating ordinance, and it provides for, similar to what this council has seen in the last 2 years, you make an application, it goes to the zoning officer, reviewed by various parties for public health and safety issues. They pay an application fee initially, an escrow fee to the board engineer to review, I think for consistency with any resolutions that may be out there for seating. And this ordinance does not provide for putting tables in parking spaces or eliminating parking or anything like that. This is filling in the gap of it where the municipality may have flexibility short of implicating site plan review. So if you're eliminating parking or doing something that might impact circulation that's implicating site plan, we'll send you to the conventional board process. But this is below that level. You're just saying we're not adding any new seating, we're not eliminating parking. We want to allocate it somehow on the site, and that's what this provides for right now, if you do nothing. It also, the prior ordinance amended the zoning code to make outdoor seating a permitted use in the various commercial districts. It's my understanding, too, that there was already various pre-existing non-conforming uses for outdoor seating. So the practice has been to honor those because that's the way you treat it under the municipal land use law. But I say that just to clarify that, this clarified if there's new seating, a new business or something like that, it would go through this process. But you have an existing system already in place, and it's kind of a procedural question or a policy question if you want to make changes to kind of address some of the things that maybe you learned over the past 2 years, that what worked and what didn't.
I have a question, because the amount of seating is supposed to change, but
I'm sorry,
the
what?
amount of seating is not supposed to change.
Correct.
Right, but Lou, I don't think we've done a seat count at a lot of these restaurants in years. So how do we know they're even following the proposed seat regulations?
We do seat counts. We
When did
have,
we do one
have
this
code
year?
enforcement goes out and has done some counts on restaurants. This past year, Mike and I personally counted the ones at the Seaview. So we have done seat counts, and we do stay on top of it. Now, of course, there may be
We
times
have to
where
make sure, though, that we do everyone and not just pick and choose.
Right. No, we
person.
do. And code enforcement and zoning go through and do a check. The Fire Prevention Bureau is also checking for occupancy loads within a building. All of those checks are done periodically. Now, they're not done daily, but they're done periodically throughout the summer months.
I have a question for the city attorney, solicitor. In here it says, if your application was approved in the past, an annual fee to renew that application is $10. Is there a possibility that there's grandfathered applications out there?
Yes, and that was one of the things that I checked in with the city clerk, because it didn't really occur to, I think, a lot of the people in the administration about this code section, because once it was enacted, people made applications, paid the initial fee, paid the escrow, and they haven't, I don't think, changed since. So they just pay that $10 renewal at the time of the mercantile license, and then you kind of forget that this ordinance is in there, and because the people that were eligible for it or took the opportunity to do it already did it, and they just renew it on an annual basis.
Okay.
So I think you want to preserve what you have in here. The question is, do you kind of?
That's my next question. If we wanted to make a temporary COVID-related resolution, would we not have to amend the ordinance itself? Didn't we do that in the past through resolution?
You did. You did temporary resolutions to really greatly expand what was already in the code book. It wasn't inconsistent with what's in here, it just, it ballooned from that process.
So we don't have to go through the whole first reading, second reading, and then 20 days or 30 days, whatever it is.
Well, look, if you wanted to entertain temporary restrictions again, we're under a public state of emergency and public health state of emergency right now. So we're back in that land, but I think, we don't have any temporary restrictions or temporary procedures in place. You have an existing code, and maybe you look at the last 2 years and figure out, do we want to make some permanent changes or stick with the status quo, or, that would be my suggestion to council.
So does everybody understand the current process that we're under at this point? Good.
And can I add something, just to that point, Councilman Meyer, it would be to provide consistency for everybody. Planning for city officials that have to enforce a code or a temporary regulation, and the businesses so that they can plan for the future and know that, this is the procedure. If you want to do a big project, you go to the big board. If you have something that's simple and doesn't implicate parking, this is the code section that might provide some initial relief there.
I think that's really important that if we do want to create more guidelines, that we leave it up to the professionals to act them out. I don't want to see us as city council members getting involved in these application processes, because it could be biased and tainted, and political, unfortunately.
So in my question, I agree with that. I think that the whole intent of this discussion right now is that all the people that probably want to go to outdoor dining, because we've just gone through 2 years of discovering outdoor dining and how great it is, everybody coming to the Planning and Zoning Board to get this done is not going to happen in 2022, probably, or the boards are just going to be inundated. And so I agree with everybody's concerns. I just think that there's a way we can possibly put in a temporary, maybe there should just be a small committee of professionals, a small committee that would review these applications, and, with the zoning officer or however, and move these things along. And to Stacy's point, for example, maybe they ought to be required to send a notice to all the neighbors around them that they're making this application, and do they have any problem, and they should come and meet with the special committee.
I think that's
See,
fair.
I don't know, when you're saying there are a lot of restaurants, I don't see there being a lot of businesses coming for this outdoor seating. I don't see that many coming, because the ones that want to do it already have it, because they've already went through this process and have received it. So the ones that don't have it are the ones that were using city property, which we're not looking to entertain this year. So,
Is that true, though?
So-
Did Harry's and the Beach Shack and the Ocean View, did they all have to go in front of the board? I think they got temporary approvals.
they were using the parking lots.
Yeah,
But they're
they're
not-
using their own land.
But they can't use parking lots. That, even in this ordinance, it says they can't use parking lots. It's already established.
Well, this is what we're trying to talk, this is the framework we're trying to create right here.
But we're-
Whether we
but we-
want,
but
as
we
a
don't-
council,
But we don't want to take away parking. That's the thing. So if they're taking away their parking spots, we're saying, no, you can't take away parking. So if they want to do entertainment
Actually,
things.
and I know you know this, but the council aren't necessarily saying no. We're saying go to the planning board if you want to take up your parking spot, just like you could have for the last few.
Well, no, because I think in that, if you read that ordinance, it says they cannot take parking spots.
Under the streamlined outdoor dining licensing program, but the city council is not saying no to any particular plan. If somebody wants to bring a plan that says, you know what, I think we have a better use, we can eliminate this parking space, they have every right to make their case to the board. We're just not providing a
I was
fast
just
track.
trying to
Okay.
be, I was just trying to be
Okay,
clear
I-
about that they've always had that right and still
Right, but
do.
but I feel that they should go before the whole board. It shouldn't be a select few of the boards. I think it should be, if they're going before the board, it should be the whole board and do the process like it should be with public input. It shouldn't be, oh, you only had to go before 2 or 3 people of the board. No, it should be the whole board. The whole board was put there for a reason.
but we're not trying to create a party atmosphere. We're trying to create an opportunity for patrons to feel safe while dining. This is still a thing unfortunately, is a world that none of us wanted to ever move into and continue to live in. Unfortunately, we as a city council have a responsibility to provide a safe environment for our guests.
Well, I don't think that we should use the word safe, because every restaurant is safe for people to go into. If you don't feel it's safe, then you don't go to. It's not for us, city council, to decide that we have to create an atmosphere that everyone feels safe, because no one ever is going to all feel safe.
You're
But-
acting like I'm striving for perfection. I'm trying to make the best for most. And I think that's what our goal here as city council.
Well, I still think that, we have something in place for people to go before the zoning and planning board, and I personally don't think that we should be taking away parking spots for people to put dining in, and therefore we're creating a parking issue.
But this ordinance that's currently on the books, that was passed in 2019, am I correct? 17. That kind of streamlines this process if you adhere to all of those guidelines.
Right.
If you are going to be taking away a parking spot, then you would go to the full planning board and then go to that process.
In addition, any use of the right-of-way, would require
A planning,
the city's authority, and it's not just going to the planning board. The planning board would say, oh, you're planning to use a portion of the right-of-way. Did you get the city's approval? And that would be a part of it too. So, there may be appropriate locations and circumstances where you may consider charging a fee for that. I'm saying that's an option because you actually did it in the past. And you do it on the patio permits on Washington Street Mall. So
yeah.
it's not like it's not done. It's not a new concept. It's just a matter of like how you apply it. So those are what I saw as maybe, some options of looking at how to deal with that. But you have an existing outdoor seating ordinance. It has been utilized. It is been utilized. It's renewed on an annual basis by a number of applicants. And there's some options there.
I would just like to say, just for the record, how I feel. I think there is room for some businesses to use some of their parking to accommodate outdoor dining. That's my opinion, and I firmly stand on that. Stand firmly on that. But I think we just have to we have to work with the businesses, have them tell us what they're looking for. I'm not going for a full free-for-all and taking away parking. And I agree with Mr. Vole and Ms. Sheehan that, the neighbors should be aware of the things that are going on with these applications.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, that's done. Thank you.
So, just to bring us back to where we want to go, currently, there is no notice, is that correct?
Right, and there would be notice in the event that somebody wanted to do,
Planning, zoning.
well, they wanted to do outdoor dining in a zone that doesn't currently exist or didn't exist at the time of that ordinance and is new. So if you bought a new building in a residential zone and all of a sudden you want to do outdoor dining, well, that may implicate a use variance, and you may have to go to the zoning board
Right.
to get approval for that. But we have pre-existing non-conforming uses, and we also have outdoor dining as a permitted use in the commercial zones. That's what the code is right now, and that's the way it's been applied.
Okay, and I'm just going to interject one last comment, and just, because what I'm kind of hearing is we're pretty comfortable with the existing ordinance. I don't know if everybody agrees with that, but it sounds to me like we can work with the existing ordinance and change it or not change it. But one thing I want everyone to think about is the current process right now is through basically the construction office through the zoning officer, right? Is that what we want if there's going to be a massive amount, maybe not so massive, but I'm going to assume there's going to be a decent amount of applications for this summer. Is that what we're all comfortable with? So I present that as an actual question that we can discuss.
Well, I would recommend the businesses to get their applications in as soon as possible, one, because there is a 30-day window that they have to get a response by, and then I imagine there might be an opportunity for ask the application for an extension from the city, but it is going to be a lot of work, but there is an escrow fee built into this for that work by the professionals, whoever's involved.
But, I already see a lot of these restaurants already have established outdoor seating. So they already have established outdoor seating. They're not going to have to go before the board or anybody to get that, what they already have for outdoor seating.
Okay.
But, yeah, the ones that don't, I think that this will streamline the outdoor seating application. But back to your question, Mayor Mullock, I think we do have a lot of professionals in the city that work in the city that are part of the planning board, part of the, zoning board, part of HPC. I think if we get a cross-section of maybe one member maybe from each one of those, that might be, they're the ones that have that expertise. They know the zone. They'll carry out the ordinance, if we decide to, keep the same ordinance or change it, at least change it for a committee system. I think that really, brings in a committee system instead of having one person, kind of be the point person.
Like
I think they already had a committee. I mean, basically,
No,
the
not-
fire, police, the zone.
Well, these are people that's
Oh.
really.
Yeah, I'm saying they already had a number of people.
They signed off if it was, not a fire issue, they would sign off on it, safety issue, things like that. But I'm talking about the actual ordinance itself, carrying that out, looking at the plan, looking at, the specs of, the chairs and the tables that they want to
Are
use.
you talking about like a HPC review committee?
Kind of like a review committee,
Right.
exactly.
I can support that.
I think that
That way
makes
they-
sense because we have a lot of expertise, within the city. And if we take a cross-section of that, I think that makes sense.
And there's going to be some variables that, we're not going to expect that might have to come back to us.
Come back to us,
And
exactly.
it'd be great if they had a report for us,
Or maybe
or
we have a
recommendations.
Or maybe we have a liaison from council as a non-voting member, maybe, on that committee, just so that we can, or whoever's there can bring that information back.
I think, and in the past, there were certain applications that were made for outdoor seating and were denied for certain things.
Was this during COVID?
No, it was before COVID.
Okay,
And it had to do with the fact of not having the 5-foot walkway, there, and things like that. So I think with that in place, there was a look at safety and what could be done and what could not be done. And I'm comfortable with what they had in place before with the committee. Basically, it was a committee that looked at the safety of where this outdoor dining is going to go.
Deputy Mayor, can I jump in on that too? One of the things here too is just to think about what's the goal of the committee. And if the goal of the committee is to, or the advisory committee to kind of like review and give feedback, you may consider, instead of having them review every application, you could have a review committee come up with some standards and maybe some minimum, this is the type of materials we like for tables or the type of lighting or something like that to provide some uniform guidance is a thought if you're, that as an alternative to reviewing every application, because if the goal is to streamline it and then put them through a committee, you're kind of putting them back into board land. But
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't want to say dictate people what they have to do for certain seating, because certain restaurants have their own
aesthetic.
decor, that they
Yeah.
want to keep. And to say, oh, you have to have this or that, I don't know if we say certain chairs might not be appropriate for every location.
And as I said that, I immediately wanted to pull it back. because I honestly, I don't think you want to, this is like, the goal of this, I think, is to remove bureaucracy, not create,
More bureaucracy.
more legs on a spider, but
However, the biggest concern I got from most residents personally was actually the aesthetics. I thought the plastic chairs, the plastic tents, the plastic utensils, that kind of,
But wasn't it
I'm not saying
in the
that,
ordinance already that they couldn't have the plastic chairs? Did I read that somewhere?
it's not in this ordinance.
it's not the COVID, I think.
But like, if you think about it, if you're in the historic district, you're not supposed to use vinyl siding, so it's not like you have to tell them what to do, but maybe some things that you don't want is a starting point too.
I don't want to get into dictating what type of chairs and all that kind of stuff. That's crazy. I do,
But you can still have the HPC
Right,
kind of weigh in
review.
on this.
so, because the other thing is, we've learned some things over the last 2 years watching this. People have seen some things, and I'd hate to see us just kind of not include what we've learned over the last 2 years. And I'm not suggesting exactly how to do that without putting in too much red tape and review. That's not what we want to do. However, I do think we have seen some things over the last 2 years that if we did nothing to change the ordinance would not really be incorporated either.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I see with the ordinance is that I think you need to have, where they're located, residential's neighborhood input,
And that's not in it now.
and that's not in it. That's the only thing that I would say, that if a lot of these restaurants or these places are going to put outdoor seating, it's going to affect the neighbors.
There's a few things that I was looking at when, I was considering this.
Yeah.
I mean, not lighting, noise, and exactly what you were saying as far as that's concerned. Not changing the grading, because that could change the rainwater runoff, things like that,
Right,
that
right.
I'm
I didn't
thinking.
even- yeah, I
So
didn't even
there's,
think of that.
there are certain things that, if we all look at it and redline it maybe, and then
Yeah.
come back, I don't,
Lorraine, you brought up a really good point. What if they went outdoor seating, they put all wooden flooring out there? Now you have runoff into the neighbors, and
yeah.
I didn't even think of that, because you're going to have to put the chairs on something, not just on the grass, maybe.
Yeah, so, there's other things that we really need to consider. And but I do want to get it done quickly, because, right now, we're, coming up on the spring.
Okay, any other comments or questions on this?
May I ask a question, just because this is issued from my office? If council does make changes to this portion of the code, would that then impact the establishments who have the annual renewals? They've already received approvals?
I just was looking into that, the last clause right there. You tell me if
And the reason I bring that up is because Deputy Mayor did mention a significant number of restaurants applied when this first became available. Some got denied, and some were approved. So a lot of the restaurants that may have been given the temporary COVID relief seating might already have this approval in place. So I really don't know how many more applications we should be anticipating, unless they want to then change, like make amendments to what has been approved. I understand they would probably have to reapply, but I'm just wondering if there are implications for the.
So you're
prior
saying if they
approvals.
increase their seating, they might want to increase their seating along with inside and outside?
Make
And if
any
that's the case,
changes.
they would have to go before the board.
or even if they rearrange.
If they wanted to make changes to what has already been approved, however, if they want to just maintain the same outdoor dining that's been at that $10 renewal year after year, would their applications be implicated by the changing of the section of the code?
Without knowing what we're changing, I can't answer that. But if we do nothing, anybody who has a property and room to allocate outdoor seating and not increasing seating or eliminating parking, you can make an application today. And if you have one before, and you want to submit one from 2019 or earlier, I mean, that our code provides for that right now.
And I know a lot of restaurants with the outdoor seating was fine when it was just outdoor seating. When it became inside and outdoor, a lot of them did away with the outdoor because they could not keep up with running. And as a waitress, going all the way outside to the outside is a lot of work. And it takes time in waiting on the tables and providing the right service.
This might potentially provides the opportunity to say, if it's a nice day, we're putting them all outside. And if it's raining, we're putting them all inside. But if it's nice, we're not putting both inside and outside together. You get your allocation, you move it around. The city currently provides for the flexibility to do that, provided you submit a plan for that.
Okay.
So that's our current framework.
Anything further?
No.
Any other questions, comments on this?
Should we bring this up again for discussion?
Yeah.
Well, sure, if there's going to be changes. But what I'm kind of hearing tonight is it doesn't seem to be like,
Let's say this, if I get feedback from the people
we'll
From
put
the
it up.
public, I'm going to bring it up in the
Yeah,
meeting and
yeah.
ask for a
Absolutely.
discussion.
Fine.
But I think then you also might, if there's a super high demand, Councilman Sheehan may be right.
'Cause I
There may
think,
not be a whole lot of demand, but if there is,
We may have to react.
we should be able to take action. yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the guidance then, though, to our current business owners is to go under the ordinance, and can you cite the
Section 410, or 412, excuse me.
section 412? Is that what you
Outdoor
said?
seating. Just type in outdoor seating.
Outdoor seating in the current code. So if you type in outdoor seating, that'll come up.
Or call me.
Or
Well,
call the
can't
city
call
clerk.
me, my phone isn't working right now.
Or
You can
email
me.
the city clerk.
cityclerk@kmacity.com.
Okay. Before we go on to the agenda, I do see that Mr. Ed Rotz has joined us. Ed, we did bring up beach tags, and we did have a little bit of a discussion, but you're out here tonight and waiting around. Why don't you give us, just because we already talked about it, Ed, if you could kind of give us the quick synopsis of what you would like to see happen.
What?
What you would like to see happen, I know specifically with a 3-day tag.
Well, I think
Mike.
the handout I gave pretty much explains.
Ed, you're going to have to bring that microphone.
It's fairly obvious.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just talk right into there.
Okay. It's fairly obvious that other Jersey Shore communities are given a 3-day visitor savings when they show because they incorporate it into the weekly tag. And there's no reason why we can't do the same thing.
So your point, if I can just summarize, is the other municipalities do not have the 3-day tag
No municipality has a 3-day tag except us.
besides us.
And, I mean, I don't know, it's so labor intensive for the beach taggers with the 3-day tags, with punching them and then the two colors will coincide because one color's going out of business, the other one's coming in. They have to check for that. And so, I mean, if you're going to give a 3-day visitor savings, give them the savings through the weekly tag.
The weekly tag.
That's easily done by just starting the weekly tag on Friday.
Starting the weekly tag on Friday,
Instead
so
of-
Friday to Friday.
Instead of Saturday. And about 80 to 85% of our weekly visitors are Saturdays or Sundays. So to change to Friday doesn't lose us any revenue. The only ones the main ones buying a weekly tag on Friday would be your 3-day visitor.
that was my concern, was the weekend, people that come in for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that if the weekly started on Saturday, what are they going to purchase? So that was my suggestion maybe to do, if we did any 3-day, it would only be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and would just be, that would be the 3 days.
What, a separate tag for?
Just make a 3-day tag only available for Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Only for purchase.
Why do we need it? We don't need it. If you make the Saturday tag start on Friday, it covers it. And the visitor's going to be getting the savings just like he would under the old 3-day tag, which he got more than a savings last year when we priced it at $15. We actually lost a significant amount of revenue, and going back to this, to have it incorporated into the weekly, we would recapture quite a bit of that revenue. So to me, it's a win-win, I'll say.
Well, we've heard from our professionals multiple times on this now. You don't get more professional than Ed. How many years have you been doing it?
How many years?
How many years?
I think 23,
23, okay. So
but I'm
he knows
fading.
what he's talking about. Ed knows what he's talking about. So we take your suggestion, very well. Do we have any questions? Let's keep it separate for a second. Friday to Friday, does anyone have any suggestions or complaints about that?
I just worry about the changeover because most of the changeovers are Saturday to Saturday with
So-
that weekly tag.
So the
What-
problem there would be
implication?
the last Saturday that the
Would
person's
that-
there.
Yeah, would they have to buy it? They would have to buy a one-day tag.
But most
they
of the
would be
rentals,
going home on
You're right.
Saturday.
most of the rentals, they have to be out by 9 a.m. or 10 a.m.
Right.
I mean, they don't go to the
Right.
beach.
They could.
They
could, yeah.
could go to the beach, but
You still have that with the Saturday or Sunday visitors. I mean, when they leave on a Saturday, or they're done on a Saturday, and they try to, get the extra day for Sunday. So
Okay.
I think it's,
There's no solution that solves all of it,
It's-
obviously. Okay.
I like the Friday to Friday.
Well, one of the things is there are more rentals that are Friday to Friday now, too. So
Staggered.
just to get off of that Saturday
staggers
day,
it.
yeah.
I like
I
to
would
get the
bring
week-
up one thing. There is one sticky point, the Memorial Day Saturday, the one day of the year. And I would propose that we just get a different color of this year's weekly tag, maybe 2,000, that we cover just Memorial Day Saturday. It's the only missing day for the whole year.
It's easy to come up with a Memorial Day color. Okay. Okay, so we've kind of addressed, everyone's comfortable with the Friday to Friday?
I think so.
I mean, if that's your suggestion, Ed, I'm
and
fine
no
with that.
3-day.
And
Um,
eliminate
Next is the no 3-day. If I could just push back on one thing, you said that there's basically no savings, but I just want to be clear. Right now, the 3-day is $15, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the weekly is
No, the 3-day is $15.
15, right?
You actually, we were giving the visitors a saving on the second day, not just the third.
Because the
day.
daily's 8.
Right.
That's where we
Right.
lost a lot of the
Right,
revenue.
right.
Everybody was switching, they were only coming for 2 days, they were buying the weekly and saving $1 over the daily.
Say that one more time.
They were buying a
Any-
3-day,
Any 2-day visitor was gonna buy the 3-day
3-day,
tag
yeah.
for $15, and they save $1
Right,
over
right.
2 daily tags of $8 each.
There's still, though, just so I'm clear, would be the weekly at 20, which if you're doing the 3-day, well, your point is some of those are just 2-day folks saving the $1.
But I mean, like, this structure's set up like, if you went to the weekly, what if you decided, if you raised the daily to 10, you'd raise the weekly to 25?
Right, well,
And-
because Cape May Point weekly is 25, Stone Harbor weekly is 17. I'm not going to say Ocean City and Seattle because I don't want to detract from our visitors, but they're a little less. So anyway, okay, where do we stand on getting rid of the 3-day tag, Council? I mean, we've talked about it.
I'm saying get
I
rid of
think
it.
it's costly. It sounds like it's costly, cumbersome,
Consuming.
and probably we're losing money on it.
We lost money on it last year, and the idea is to give a person visiting 3 days a savings on the third day.
Right,
Our weekly tag now does that. They're saving $4.
right.
So,
And
in effect, the 3-day is wrapped into the weeklies up and down the coast. I mean, there's a lot of exceptions to where towns don't even give a person. You know, they got a daily for 10 and a weekly for 35. So there's no in-between of a 3-day visitor.
And I have
The ones
seen,
that give it to the 3-day visitor.
I have seen the beach taggers where they're trying to punch a whole family's beach tags as other people are walking by, and you don't even see what they have, so it's certainly cumbersome. Council, what do we think then? Do we
I
get rid of
say
the
yes.
3-day tag?
Yes.
Okay. All right, can I take a straw poll here? What are we thinking, Council? To
I
get
say
rid of the
get rid of the
3-day?
3-day.
Okay,
I'm a
eliminate.
yes, get rid of the
Okay.
3-day. Yeah.
I can do it. I'd like to see a weekend tag, but
Senseless.
labor intensive.
It
Is
would
that-
be, it would be 13 weeks of printing a weekday tag when changing the Saturday tag to Friday you don't need it.
Eliminates it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need 13 different weeks of a 3-day tag.
Okay. Well, then I'll suggest that we have a resolution on the next meeting.
Well, why don't we just do it now? That way they
Do it
can get it, and have the solicitor do it in, what do you call it?
So we'd be amending the ordinance, but if you want to give verbal direction to the administration so that we're not waiting on this, that's what I would suggest, because usually you want to reevaluate these in November so that we have some lead time. But if you want to do a verbal resolution, then I can follow up with an ordinance just to confirm the code reflects what direction you're giving.
I mean, if we had to change the ordinance, why don't we just have you do it, and then next week or next meeting, we just put it for first reading?
Because what you want to do is say it's Friday to Friday now, and we're eliminating 3-day tags, right?
Yep.
So I have a draft right now that says that.
Now, timing-wise for the printing of the beach tags? Timing-wise for the printing of the beach tags?
We're in good shape because the weekly tag was never going to kick in till the first Saturday in June.
Did you make sure that was going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so you gave us time. Okay. All right,
So there's no rush.
we have time.
We have to do a reading and a second
I
reading.
think, yeah, but if you got time, you could change your mind.
Well, it's a great point.
But in all seriousness, we're directing the solicitor to put together an amendment to the ordinance, correct? Okay. So that'll be on for next agenda.
Done.
Done.
You got your vote.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Glad you
Good.
came.
Thank you.
Thank you for
you.
explaining.
For the
that.
explanation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to, how about, we did just have a lot of discussion. I'm going to open it up to public comment on to the discussion topics only. So that would be 3-day beach tag, Municipal Taxation and Revenue Advisory Committee direction from Council, Lafayette Street, Pittsburgh Avenue, and outdoor dining. Any comment on those discussion topics only, please? Sir?
Bill Seeger, Vermont Avenue. The municipal taxation direction from council subject, and this has no reflection on that committee at all. But during the discussion, I heard some things, if I got it right, was that you were going to recommend that group investigate or do some legwork for police contracts with the neighboring municipalities. And then I heard a comment about, well, why not have them review all contracts? Did I hear that correctly?
I think it was all contracts with the other municipalities,
Okay.
the shared, well,
Thank you,
yeah.
Well, if I understand things right, that group was created to develop and find new revenue outlets and sources for the city, not to be a landing point for busy work. And that investigation work for contracts, which will eventually lead to negotiations and recommendations, sounds like it's something that should come directly within the city manager's office, who, one, is compensated when these folks are volunteers, and has administrative support to tell people, okay, we're going to spend 6 hours today working on this project, instead of saying, well, I got to get all my volunteers together for 6 hours and assign different projects to different people. So I think the infrastructure for these kinds of duties seem logical to me to be within the city manager's office, not in a voluntary committee. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment on that. I was taken as the fact that when we deal with these other municipalities, we're looking at the revenue that we're generating from these other municipalities, and how much revenue should we be looking to get to cover our costs for the services.
Okay. Mr. Crowley?
Dennis Crowley, 806 Lafayette Street. Couple comments. The discussion on Lafayette Street earlier tonight was, Shane, we've been talking about this thing for how many years, right? the discussion on Lafayette Street needs to have on the record a representative of the residents of Lafayette Street, and that would be, I'll designate myself for that for the meeting tonight because there's nobody else around. But let me just tell you, the condition and the lethargy with which government approaches the problem on Lafayette Street is approaching a disgusting level. It's a disgusting level. I view that whatever the county government does going forward on this, so far, they've been basically insulting the city of Cape May. That's our gateway.
Yeah.
We got Pennsylvania Avenue paved because it was the gateway to the Coast Guard base. We're getting Pittsburgh, it's a gateway to wherever. People who come to Cape May come in Lafayette Street. It's a disgrace. It's been a disgrace, and I think anybody in county government that suggests we push it back even further ought to be pushed back from this town. So let's let the public record show that we're not happy with that delay on Lafayette Street. And we're not,
I see
also
another-
not happy because,
I do see another Lafayette Street resident in the
Oh,
audience,
good.
just so you know.
will you vote for me?
Careful what you say.
Will you vote for me as a resident of Lafayette? And don't forget, that when you look at calendars, they're now pushing it back to a point where the Lafayette Street Park is going to be built.
Right.
Can you imagine the chaos?
No, it's,
Can you imagine what this is doing to our gateway? People laugh when they come into Cape May. They don't laugh when they come into Stone Harbor, and they don't laugh when they come into Avalon, but they laugh when they come into Cape May. And that's wrong.
I do think you have a point of the other barrier islands and what they look like as their entrance to town. I have to agree with you.
They're proud of their entrance.
Right.
It's a, you know, we're at the end of a funnel, and it's a mess. And it gets worse because every time somebody builds a new house in Lafayette, the street gets opened up again, and there's more bumps and bruises on the streets. So it's got to stop. It's got
Well,
to come to.
the other letter that the city could certainly use is a letter signed by other residents of Lafayette Street. I'm
Sure,
certainly gonna-
I'll be happy to do that. I'll be happy to do that. Second thing was, I don't want to push back on my friend Bill Seeger, but let me just tell you that the MTRAC committee's charge, the council created the MTRAC committee, and it specifically put in there that it is to be assigned the investigation of any issue deemed important by the council. That's part of the reason why MTRAC is the place to go to study conceptual issues. And I don't have a problem with anything the council tells the committee to do. And finally, on the discussion of outdoor dining, you need to hear a couple things before you go forward. Number one, this last 2 years' experience has created a brand-new phenomenon in Cape May. And it isn't an outdoor seating thing anymore. We have outdoor seating regulations for different places. We have one for the mall, and we have one for other places. We don't have, that ordinance is silent on this new phenomenon, which is basically, for want of a better word, the stand up and walk around with a drink crowd. This is not outdoor dining, not outdoor seating. It's drinking and dining in a very loose environment all over the property. The ordinance doesn't speak to that. The ordinance has nothing to say about the occupancy of people who don't sit, but who go and drink and walk around and socialize. And I'm one of them, because I do it a lot in a lot of different bars in town. So I know what the environment is. We have a great time. But the point is, if you're going to now reinstitute the old order, keep in mind that the old order doesn't have anything to say about that. So when you start putting new rules in place or reinstituting the old rules, don't forget that the old rules are silent in a lot of ways. Secondly, the current zoning code does not permit outdoor dining in any residential district. And you have dining and drinking establishments located in residential districts. That's an issue you're going to have to deal with as you go forward, and you're not going to have a lot of time to do that. So be careful, and good luck.
Thank you.
The other point I had to make is that the current ordinance that you're now going to be looking at reinstituting, for some reason, has a $10 fee on a seat. And in 2016, there was a study group that recommended outdoor seating regulations and a per-seat fee of $300. That didn't make it into the ordinance, but somewhere along the line, you're going to have to realize that this new thing we have is going to impact municipal services. So somewhere between 300 and 10 is probably where you want to look at in terms of a fee. Thanks.
I think that was a good segue to the fellow who just raised his hand before you came back up to the mic.
Before Mr. Roush begins, I just want to clarify something because it was brought up about the current ordinance. The current ordinance, unchanged, has language in there that says the licensee shall comply with all state and local alcoholic beverage laws, specifically noting areas where alcoholic beverages may be consumed on the premises, and in enforcing that no alcoholic beverages may be removed from the approved license areas, which is consistent with other areas of our code. We don't have public consumption walk around. It's not Las Vegas, so that's in the existing outdoors eating ordinance, and it mirrors other provisions in our alcoholic beverage ordinances. Well, right, and this isn't an outdoor bar ordinance. This is an outdoor.
Someone's going to ask for that.
Well, it doesn't say anything about it having an outdoor bar. It says, see.
So the answer is no.
The answer's no.
Right. Mr. Roush?
Jules Rouse, 1010 New York Avenue. We've had several businesses have outdoor bars this past year. But one of the things and I wasn't here the years that they have the seating on the mall, but one of the nice things about it, if you read the ordinance, everybody has to have the same decorations as far as the quality of chairs, their awnings, the names. That's what Cape May is. You know, we're somewhat of a classy place. I would hate to see every bar with outside seating have something different. That would look terrible. So when you change things, try to make some consistency so that they're an improvement to the city. Think about the money that people spend to restore the houses, the historic houses, the colors. Do the same thing with the outdoor seating.
Mr. Roush, I agree with you, because I don't think that really is addressed in the current ordinance,
No, it's
maybe for the mall. But again, we don't want to get into legislating. I remember when we were talking about the chairs and we were writing definitions of what a chair actually is. It got very philosophical. But I agree with you that I think we don't necessarily want a plastic lawn chair. So maybe that can be addressed in this ordinance somehow. I don't know.
I don't want to read in the Star and Wave, city solicitor says no to bars or something like that, okay? What we're talking about is, do you go under a streamlined, you don't have to go to the planning board process, or are you really not allocating seating and putting in structure out there? That's planning board, zoning board.
Right.
Council's not saying no to that. We're saying, yes, if you want to do that, go to the board to see what they have to say about it.
Right.
But I think that one of the areas that I noted, to Mr. Roush's point, is I don't think you want to say, like, get into the materials that you want or something like that. Maybe there's certain minimum standards that you don't want to see out there, just like you say, we don't want vinyl in the historic district. That's a pretty easy rule to follow. And it leaves other options open, you know, so.
The only other comment that I'll make is our ordinance is very clear that you are supposed to provide one parking space for every 4 seats. Up until 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I guess now, that procedure was in place. Things have been changed to not require parking for seats. We have a bunch of approvals that have been given on site plans over the last probably 35 years that have, within that site plan approval, specifics as to how many parking spaces they must provide and how many seats that they are granted. What you're doing is you're changing a structure. They're going to have 2 structures, one for the people that did business here years ago, and one for the new guys that can do whatever they choose. There's a great deal of inconsistency, and I know you want to proceed quickly. However, be careful how quickly you go.
Thank you. Mr. Roush, I apologize. Your last comment, I just didn't understand. You were talking about grandfathered and non-grandfathered, is that right? When you said new people getting
I'll
approved.
explain it this way. For a number of years, I would file an Oprah request to look at the mercantile license and compare it with the site plan approval that was given for that specific property. There is a great difference in those two numbers. There are very few businesses that comply with their site plan approval. They have been given mercantile licenses over the years with whatever numbers they want to plug in. Now, at what point are you going to go and back and say, hey, you got to go back to your site plan? That's your number of sheets that you're allowed, not the mercantile license from 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. In 2016, there was a lengthy committee that had the staff pull out, as I recall, 18 site plan approvals, did a count, physical count, of how many seats that were being occupied, being installed in the restaurants, and compared the mercantile license. Nobody complied. It was estimated at that time there were over 1,000 seats in existence contrary to the site plan approval.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Roush. Any other comment from the public on these topics? Would you, quickly, please, just because we will have another public comment.
It's a comment I forgot to make when I was up here. It's probably the most important comment I want to make. We were snowbound for 3 days, obviously. We sat at our house on Lafayette Street, and we actually watched the Public Works crew. And I could compare them to an orchestra. It was a real thing of beauty to watch them actually. They knew exactly what they were doing to remove that huge pile of snow, and they did it like in such a coordinated way that I was totally impressed by that. And whoever came up with that plan has got to be congratulated. And the whole bunch of them, but specifically, who orchestrated that clearance of the snow on Lafayette Street ought to be thanked personally. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And to be blunt, I know Mr. Blasco got a phone call from the school board just yesterday or Sunday, because they needed the sidewalk cleared for the kids to get to school. And if anybody saw it, there was so much snow on the sidewalk pushed to the side that they did do an excellent job getting that done. So good, thank you.
We will relay that.
Please relay that to our Public Works. Okay. Any other public comment on these topics? We can move on then to our ordinance for introduction. City Clerk?
Council, we have ordinance 454-2022, an ordinance amending Section 81 of the Cape May City Code to codify procedures for extra-duty police details.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions, council?
I just want to make a comment that I see it's going to go up to $100 per hour. That's up from the 80, correct?
I think Chief, that's our current rate that we charge.
Oh, the current is 100?
So
I thought it was 80. That's
just the framework of this ordinance, Lower Township has a similar provision, and many other towns have an extra duty ordinance. This is to codify the current procedure that the Cape May Police Department utilizes, and we currently charge a $100 fee.
Okay, I thought it was only 80 and we were going up to 100.
Same fee as was charged before.
I guess my next question about this, I know when we have certain events in town, it requires extra police officers, are we going to start charging these these places that come in and make a profit on it for the extra police that are going to be needed for these events? You know, I mean, a lot of these are, I understand a lot of these things that come in are nonprofits, but a lot of them are profits, and they should be charged appropriately for the use of our police.
Yes, ma'am, I definitely agree. What we've done, just to back up one thing, the $80 fee that we used to charge was changed in the beginning of 2021. I asked for it to be changed because I felt we were being shortchanged. Other municipalities, I looked at the state police, I looked at Middle Township, we gauged between 60 and 120 for certain things. I thought $100 was not a huge lift. I look to possibly raise that in the next following years. So that's something we look at with gas prices and things like that. Secondarily, the other events that we do charge for are the nonprofits. If I can say out loud, the MAC, for instance, we do charge them for police services when they have the Crab Fest, when they have different events there on premises. They've had no problem paying it. It is at a reduced rate, though, from the $100, because we feel that them bringing people to town at that large rate should offer some concession, but that's maybe could be spelled out here.
But that's what I'm wondering, if that should be put in here, if we're giving the nonprofits a reduced rate, should that be put in the ordinance?
And you can agree to the rate, the current rate that we do charge and voucher them is $50 per officer instead of the $100.
Now, what about the organizations that come in and doing a profit? You know, like there's a lot of these races and everything
Yes,
that
ma'am.
are profit.
So I would,
If I can just interject, we are currently also working on a special events ordinance that will be coming before council in the next couple meetings. Our goal is the first meeting in March. So we will be having that, and that will cover those types of special events.
and currently,
Well,
just to
well, special events are different than profit and nonprofit.
No, this will cover special events. There would be two lanes for profit and for a for-profit corporation and a not-for-profit
Okay,
corporation.
then how is this different?
This is the extra duty work that the police are assigned for contractors such as Atlantic City Electric. And the special events would just be its own separate ordinance.
Okay, we wouldn't
And
want
that
to,
is-
we wouldn't want to put in the same ordinance?
No, that would be unusual. The other towns that have these ordinances have a special events ordinance and a extra duty ordinance.
We currently do charge, though, just to answer your first question, for the last 2 years that I've been running the programs, we have been charging companies like Delmo Sports the straight $100 fee for officers and cars. So it was 80 2 years ago, 2021, I moved it to 100, and that's where we have. So any of those, even the Cape May Running Company, we charge them the same fee. We don't reduce that fee. So those are the ones we primarily charge for. There have been a couple of run companies that came through outside of Cape May Run Company that we've charged the same amount for. If you want it in the same, that's one thing, but it should probably be separated, the special events one. But the same dollar amount, I feel, should be the rate of $100 for those, because they are making a profit. They are utilizing our services. The one thing that might be missed there is if they request an ambulance, Public Works, because I know there was a fee structure we were looking at. If they require trash cans, et cetera, and different, if I require Public Works to come out and clean the street at the end, that's something that I think that the manager's office was working on.
Why I thought this ordinance was covering that is because it talks about a private person. And that's why I thought it was covering this. It was going to be covered for that, in C.
Private persons or entry in City of Cape May, the private person or the entry shall be then validated time reports.
But private person doesn't necessarily mean nonprofit.
Or profit, though, but he's saying he's going to do another ordinance that's going to be profit or nonprofit. And that's why I was wondering if this, that's why I was asking the question, why wasn't it all in one ordinance?
Well, what wasn't all in one ordinance? The special events part or the nonprofit part?
Special events.
So the special
Events that are profit.
Well, they're connected in some way, but the special events is going to deal with issues that are outside of the police ordinance. This is specifically a police ordinance to codify an existing and accepted practice of extra duty. So,
Okay.
so, and to turn back to your initial comment, if we look at section A, 8112A, you want to add a section there that, or a sentence after the period that says, for nonprofit entities, the fee shall be $50 per hour, because that's what it is.
Well, I think Lou's saying we're going to another ordinance. I don't know. I'm asking a question.
Okay.
I had the initial thought you did, right around the same time.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we reference each other in these ordinances, I think that could help anybody reading it.
So long as they're connected in some way, or that one isn't conflicting with the other, is the concern. But do we need, we have a nonprofit rate. We want that codified somewhere to reflect what the current practice is.
Yeah, I want the permission to do so from council to charge these other agents, other nonprofits the $50. I think the only gray area might be Oktoberfest, if I can bring it up, because there's some concessions there with, if we're a member, if we're not, I don't know how to charge that. We typically do not charge for those services.
Well, that's a Chamber of Commerce is putting that on, and they're profiting from that. So
Correct.
it's a nonprofit, so somebody should be paying it.
For profit.
For profit, okay.
Right, and over the years, we have dealt with that separately with the chamber because of our buy-in with them and our association with them as far as that. So that's a discussion that you need to have. If we're going to charge Oktoberfest or the chamber for that, I don't feel that we should, but that's not me.
Yeah,
to-
but
for me to say.
they're making money off of it. We're not.
Correct.
Just a moment, because I want to bring this back to where we're at here. We have a motion and a second for the ordinance that's on here. We've heard that there's going to be another ordinance coming that does cover a lot of the issues that we're discussing, and I'm sure it will. So do we have any other questions on this existing ordinance?
Well, I want to go back to Mr. Gillenschwartz, because he was saying we should maybe just add that in there at 100, on A.
But if they're working for,
Rather than do it through the events ordinance?
Whether you put it in here or you put it in the next one, it doesn't make a difference to me.
Does somebody want to make a motion to amend,
Can-
to add to the nonprofit, amendment?
Can I just ask a question before we go down that road? Deputy Manager, the ordinance that you're putting together currently, it answers specific questions instead of just plopping the $100 or the $50 fee into this, am I correct?
It's going to create a codified process for how we handle our special events. It's going to lay out a framework by which they all come in, and it will give us an avenue for which we can name fees within that ordinance.
And then this one has Exhibit A attached to it, which is specifically for what you're speaking of doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
So-
can just use this for the police section of that.
I wanted this ordinance to be.
Separate.
To kind of be separate because we do a lot of Atlantic State Electric utility line services. I need it to be covered, A, that they have a guideline when they come in, when they submit
Right.
to our office, they have a contract, they hold insurance. It's just like, the special events permits that we do. We need to make sure that they had that, and then we're vouchering these companies. So
Yeah,
I needed to have some backbone to my vouchering
I
system.
Yeah.
also think there's something to be said about, some of these questionable, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit or whatever,
Yeah.
having both rates in there may be a little difficult.
And
to
who
say,
we
"Hey,
charge and who we
here's
don't
the
charge,
ordinance,
that-
it's $100.
That clarification needs to come from this table, from the manager's office, and who's charged and who's not charged.
The easiest, I'm
but-
sorry, Chief, the easiest distinction, and which there's undoubtedly a rational basis for, is profit versus nonprofit. And then you don't get into the question of who, what, when. It's just, are you a nonprofit or are you a profit?
Yeah.
And the fees can be different because there's a basis for that. Just to clarify, I think the intent is to clarify for this ordinance, to amend Section 81 to codify extra duty procedures, the fees that are going to be associated with it. The special events ordinance can have a reference to Section 81. If you have questions about what the extra duty is required, or what the cost, or the procedures, or the form agreement, that can all be a reference to this. So I would suggest putting in the nonprofit rate in here, in addition to the private rate, which you have, which is 100.
It's currently $50. It's been that way for about 2 years. It's your decision to up it. I think 50 is comfortable, but again, it's your table.
Does somebody want to make the motion to amend to include $50 nonprofit rate?
Do we want to do it at 50 or do we want to raise it?
I'm comfortable at 50, but if it's been that way.
I think 50 is comfortable with the stipulation that, that it will raise at a certain elevation in the years to come. It's subject to change if the wording's there, definitely, as far as that's concerned, so.
I'll make a motion to add the wording in Section A. Nonprofit will be charged $50.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I would second that.
Any discussion on that? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Sorry, Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Do I have a motion on the amended ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And to be clear, this is the introduction, correct?
Yes.
Introducing the amended ordinance. We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. Okay.
Next, we have an ordinance for second reading and consideration for adoption. This is Ordinance 452-2021, an ordinance amending Chapter 310 of the Code of the City of Cape May regarding licensing and permits to establish provisions for residential rental licensing.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment?
I think there was a minor change to this
Yes.
with the definition of realtor.
Yeah, we received a comment sort of late in the day with a concern from the Realtors Association for the city's use of the term realtor in our ordinance. Now, look, their attorney did reach out to me, and I did indicate that we weren't the first to come up with that bright idea, and Wildwood Crest, Brigantine, pick a Barrier Island code section off the wall, and there's going to be the word realtor in their code book. However, the request is just to amend it to real estate licensee. There's no confusion on my part what realtor is, but we can easily change that in this on second reading and adoption without altering any of the substance. We all know what what we mean when we say realtor or real estate licensee. So the change, I have provided a proposed amended ordinance to the clerk's office, just changing the word, any reference to realtor to real estate licensee, and that is, again, not a substantive change to the ordinance and can be adopted.
Do we have a motion on the amended ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So any questions or comments on the amended ordinance? Again, the only amendment to this ordinance is the word realtor. We'll then read, I'm sorry, could you?
Real estate licensee.
Real estate licensee, okay? Any questions or comments on the amended ordinance? No? Roll call?
Public hearing, right?
Public hearing now, sorry.
Would you like to do roll call to amend the ordinance and then
Yeah.
hearing on
let's
the
do
amended
that.
ordinance?
Let's do that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. And now we'll open this up for public hearing on amended ordinance 452. Any comment from the public? Seeing none, roll call, please. I'm sorry, we have a,
To adopt as amended.
to adopt as amended. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second. Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
All right, next, council, we have the public portion on the resolutions only listed on the agenda. Those wishing to publicly comment, please come forward, give your name and address, and please limit your comments to a 5-minute time frame.
Any public comment on the resolutions on the agenda? Seeing none, we can close public comment.
Council, is there anything you would like removed from the consent agenda this evening?
Council?
I like 5902.
57, 60, and 63.
Okay.
And can I have the meeting minutes removed as well, please?
Yes.
Oh, and 65, please.
Can someone, what is 65, Shane, sorry?
Attorney, special
Archer.
counsel.
The council.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, 63, 64, and 65, we were going to do separately anyway.
Right,
Okay.
just wanted to
Okay.
make sure.
Okay, they're already off.
Yep. Yep, All of those will be separate. So we're,
63, 64, and 65 are all set.
we're the ones added to the agenda, so.
And Lorraine, you pulled the minutes?
I did.
Okay.
So we've got minutes, 57, 59, and 60 will be removed from the consent agenda. So the consent agenda this evening, council, is Resolution 5802, 2022, resolution authorizing the award of contract for the reconstruction of New Jersey Avenue from Baltimore to Brooklyn. Resolution 6102, 2022, resolution for transfers of appropriations from the 2021 budget. And 6202, 2022, resolution for the payment of bills.
Should that be removed? Or is that
Which
resolved?
council all received an updated version. I'm not sure if you feel the need to amend, but all of council did receive an updated version, including the one bill for the West Cape May Fire Hall.
Everybody comfortable with that?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we're doing. Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda items?
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes, and my only comment, I should have said before, but is just a thank you to the city manager, Mr. Fole, Deputy City Manager Lou Belasco, on your hard work on the New Jersey Avenue repaving. Got a good quote, went out, got it all done, so thank you. And it'll be nice to get some more road paving going in our new budget, so it's
It
good.
will come soon.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the Cape May City Council regular meeting minutes dated August 17th, 2021.
Okay. I asked to have that, or I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay. And I asked to have that removed. On page 5, it's just a small clarification, but I spoke to the clerk, and it states on there that there was an evaluation cost of engineering costs at the top of the page with the Chief Financial Officer Young, and states new engineers compared to the cost of past engineers have saved the taxpayers. It said a lot of money, but that cost was over $300,000, so I want to make sure that that's reflected in there.
So we're adding over 300,000?
Yes,
Just have that, you want to make the motion to amend,
motion to amend,
to
correct?
add it to clarify that it's $300,000.
I do.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes, on the amended version.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Abstain.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
And so are we going to,
Let's
motion
make
to
a motion on the amended.
adopt as amended?
Councilwoman Baldwin, you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Abstain.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Okay. We have 5702, 2022, resolution awarding a contract for professional engineering services to Consulting and Municipal Engineers Associates for water and sewer utility on-call services.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I pulled this, and it has to do with the fact that this is something new. We never had a consulting service for water and sewer, and I guess I'm not sure where this is coming from, since our water professional is certified, and I don't understand why he can't make the decisions and that we would have to be going to the consulting firm, especially when the consulting firm says that CME does not typically provide operational services, but we do have licensed water system operators and water system operators on staff to provide operation advice when required.
This is not for operational services. This is a specific task to get well 8 back up and running. Well 8 is once again out of service. It is faulting due to who knows what. We're not getting straight answers. Currently, we have an engineering firm that is working on this well. and they've been the engineering firm since its inception. So we're looking at getting a fresh set of eyes on this well that do not have any real skin in the game and no liability that they're looking to protect.
So I guess then I don't understand why that this resolution didn't directly talk about well 8, because it doesn't even talk about well 8 being the issue. I mean, it just talks about, and I thought we had the other, I can't remember his name, here talking about well 8, and that I thought we solved the problem with well 8.
This is just to get another professional's advice on it.
For $25,000?
That's a not-to-exceed number.
Not to exceed, okay.
And, you know, given the issues, to have that person on call, to have a new person that doesn't have the pride of authorship on what's been done there, I think is in the city's, that's kind of the purpose of bringing them in. At a not-to-exceed on an hourly rate. And it doesn't, the resolution does not reference well 8. It should have, but it does make reference to the proposal, which is based on providing services on well 8, so.
I mean, I'm looking at their proposal, it doesn't talk about well 8 on the proposal.
Well, that was the context for it being delivered to the city. So if they start billing us for stuff that's not related to that, we're going to have a problem.
Okay,
Well, we won't pay it.
Exactly, that's what I mean. This
I'm
is,
sorry, what did you say? I'm
I
sorry.
said we won't pay it.
So,
we can do as amended to say, this is for well 8.
since I didn't know it was at well 8, can we discuss what the issues with well 8 is?
Well, it's out of service, and we're getting different answers from different people, and that's part of the reason why this resolution's in front of you tonight, is we're looking to get somebody, as the solicitor said, without pride of authorship on this well involved, so that we can get some of the fresh set. You know, the analogy I kept drawing is that we have a problem with well 8. It is continually gone down and had issues, and we have a team that's working on it. And it's just like a professional sports team. When it's not working, you're not winning, you got to get rid of somebody. So you get rid of the coach, which would be the engineer in this case. So we're getting rid of the coach, we're getting a new coach.
Yeah.
And really hoping that this is what solves this issue here, because it came online, and this is the 4th time it's been down since 2017.
Yeah,
And-
I mean,
and
I'm-
it's just
I'm
not
disappointed,
acceptable.
yeah.
But first, we have to get it up and running and address the issues and get to the bottom of what these issues are and what's causing this.
Yeah, because I thought, we had spent that other engineer, and I thought we had solved it, and it was back up and running, and that everything was good.
And we did, and we thought so also, and then it went down again this winter. So, and the reason for CME is because they've been involved in our water plant, and we don't have to waste any time with them getting up to speed on our operations or where anything is. They have the ability to come in and hit the ground running and get us back to where we need to be before everybody shows up.
Thanks for the explanation.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call on Resolution 57?
I'm sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
What, did you say we're getting, you didn't really say the issue with well 8. Is it,
Well, it depends on who you ask. That's part of the problem, is it?
oh, okay, I'm
We're
sorry.
still trying to diagnose what the issue is, so I can't give you an exact answer of what the issue is. If we knew, we'd be able to fix it.
Well, I just thought it was compaction before it was getting, it was,
Yeah, well, the compaction was, well, 5 with
Okay.
the sand. What we have had in the past is a spike in voltage, faulting because of a motor and pump. So we
And this is when we were-
we've sheared 2 shafts, bearings were damaged, so we've had a couple of different issues.
because weren't we discussing this with the company, that they were at
Correct.
fault with certain things, and we're going after them for payment or to fix it?
We're,
Wait a second, wait. We're not getting into who we're going after and things like that right now. This is a resolution to hire an engineer. If we want to have a private conversation about that stuff, we
No, I
can do
thought-
that.
Oh,
But
this was in the past, I thought we had
I
one.
know, but look, this is to hire an engineer. I don't want to get into going after people and things like that.
I'm not talking about going after them now. I thought we had went after it in the past for them to pay for certain things.
what we need to do, and what this is for, is to diagnose and make sure that this is continually operating. So to turn back to the purpose of the resolution, Deputy Mayor, I have some proposed language to clarify your initial question, if I can make that suggestion. In the second whereas, after it says proposing to perform such on-call services as required by the city, and then new language related to the continued operation of well 8. And that's it. And I can redline that and send that to the city clerk if that's an amendment you'd like to make.
I'd like to make that amendment.
I don't,
I'm going to second that, and I say, for anybody looking back in this resolution, it might be cryptic if he didn't have well 8 on here.
That was the purpose for which that proposal was sent over in the first place, so.
I'm gonna vote no to that because it's very important that we have an engineer involved in our water plant. I don't want to get into publicly some of the issues that we've had with our current engineer, and I didn't want to do that tonight, okay? That's why some of these questions can be asked prior to the meeting. However, it is extremely important for the city of Cape May to have an engineer that knows our water system very well. Limiting them to this is already limited to $25,000, which we don't expect is going to be the number. But we are limiting this engineering firm to $25,000. If you want to lower that number or something like that, but limiting them to one portion of the plant does not make sense to me, and that's why I'm going to vote no to this.
Oh, I was not sure of that, Mr. Mayor. So this allows them to work on any other issues up to that $25,000?
Because what happens, what happens if,
Okay,
what happens if part of the issue, and I don't know, but what happens if part of the issue is outside of well 8 where it comes into the plant itself or something like that? I just think it'd be silly to handicap the engineer in any way. I think the handicap to the engineer is the $25,000. That's the handicap. I think why limit it to look, we need an engineer that we can go to when we have a problem at the water plant. I want these folks to know the water plant. We've always had an engineer. So this is nothing new.
I didn't know we had an engineer in the past that we
We do. It's a different company.
We never had them at our,
We do.
they were hired later. They were never hired at our,
We've always had an engineer at the water plant.
I don't think so.
The engineer is Remington Vernick. That's who we have and have had for decades. That's who we call when we have an issue at the water plant.
I thought it was only on certain wells that we called them for. Then they were under contract. But I think we should have them related to well 8 because even if it comes from outside, it's still related to well 8. It's all encompassing, even though no matter where it starts, it would be covered underneath well 8's work.
I think what the mayor's pointing to is that we're signing someone up potentially for well 8 services. And what if another well fails in 2 months? And are we going to say, no, don't come out and fix the water supply system because we haven't done a resolution for that yet? This would provide an omnibus opportunity to just cover that building. We don't want to get a bill from CME for Pittsburgh Avenue or some other engineering item, but you got a cap on this, it's at an hourly rate, and if there's a problem there, at least you have the comfort that there's an engineer for that purpose, and there's a rate and a cap on it.
I withdraw my second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Do you want to keep the motion?
I had the motion there, I just don't have a second.
Okay.
I mean, I still think we should be saying what it's about. It's for well 8. It's not just to have an engineering service, it has specific relations to it.
It does.
I mean, because they say they do not usually provide operational services, but you want to hire them to do operational services when they clearly state in their thing that they don't usually do that. Should they be the ones that we'd be hiring for these well issues or for the plan issues?
our biggest concern is, we've had issues as far as water, as far as our wells are concerned. I'm very happy with keeping this ordinance the way that it's written and moving forward with that, especially with an engineering firm that will be able to get in there and get some of this work done. get
Yeah.
some answers.
If there is any other work being done at any other locations of the plant or processes, would that be first approved by the city manager to allow them to do that?
Yes.
Thanks.
So can I make a motion to approve this?
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
No.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes. And I'll just say, look, it is extremely important that we get this well back up and running. That's the main thing. So we want a new set of eyes. We've capped it, and I want to just say for the record, I think actually, just the correction of the minutes from August 17th, we are at a very significant savings on our engineering costs from previous years. So if there's any, concern of engineering costs, we're down, I think, close to 40%, maybe 50% down on our engineering costs from previous years. So let me just say right now, financially and fiscally responsibly, we have been. But we need to get the well up and running, and that's what's most important.
I just want to put for the record, I objected to it because of the wording that was missing in the resolution talking about well 8.
Okay, next resolution?
Yes. Next resolution we have is 5902, 2022, resolution authorizing a person-to-person liquor license transfer for 1025 Beach Avenue, Cape May, New Jersey, 08204. We have a motion and a second.
Do I
I
have a
make the motion?
Second, anyone?
Second.
The reason I wanted this off, Mayor, is this remaining in the same location, just under a different ownership? Is that what I'm getting out of this?
Yes, it's a
Wanna
person-to-person
make sure.
transfer.
They sold it.
Cool. Then we're not moving a liquor license across town, ladies and gentlemen.
Any other questions or comments before we get the public comment on that? No, any questions or comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
We have a 6002, 2022, resolution for the appointment of a member to the Beach Safety Advisory Committee of the City of Cape May.
Do I have a motion?
I make the motion?
I'll second.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I had a question about this. It's for the Beach Safety Advisory Committee, putting Roy Sundstrom on there as a consultant. My first question is, does he live in Cape May?
Yes, he does.
He does.
And 99% sure he does. Yes. Aaron, do you have his letter?
Bring his email up.
I believe
I don't
he's
know if his
on
contact
I believe he's
information
on
was in that
Lafayette
email.
Street.
I am under the impression that he might not live in Cape May. I know he has family that does live in Cape May.
I can tell you
And
that
he was a lifeguard for
He was a
an
life-
extended
yeah.
number of years.
he was a lifeguard. He has been at our last beach safety committee meeting.
I guess my question is, to be a consultant, what expertise does he bring to the table?
I don't know why.
Well, do we want to just
He's a
strike
member.
the word?
It's a member.
A member.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just,
That could have been on our end of things. We were trying to figure out what, if we were placing him in a category,
Yeah.
what he would be considered in that committee, because I was under the impression that he was not a resident. So consultant seemed to be the most generic because he had experience at serving as a lifeguard for so many years. He would be consulted on his experience. If you guys want to amend that, by all means.
so is he a resident?
I'm trying to find the email. Let me see.
I think that was a good,
Because I think that committee has very few residents, and I think we want to put more residents on there.
Well, he's expressed an interest. He's shown up to meetings. He's a Cape May lifeguard. If you don't,
Grew up in
and
Cape
the Sunstroms are Cape May people. I mean, this is for the committee for beach safety. He's expressed an interest. He has young kids that go to Cape May beaches. He wants to be on the board. I make the motion that we approve Roy Sundstrom as consultant, as member, as concerned citizen.
I think the city clerk did a good job putting
Yeah.
consultant.
Do I have a second on the motion?
We have a
Yeah,
second.
there's a
Thank
motion
you.
and a second after.
Is there any other
Okay,
discussion?
I just think when we look at these committees, and people are on these committees making decisions for Cape May, we should have residents on these committees.
Well, the committees are advisory to council. So they're not making decisions for Cape May. They're advising council as far as what they're, what they're
Right,
doing, okay?
yes.
So with that being said, I take a look at a lot of our committees that we've had the notices out on, our clerk has had notices out, and we're, and then I have somebody that wants to come and serve on the committee.
I wasn't
think it's
objecting to him.
wonderful.
I was asking what kind of consultant he was. I didn't know if he had
Okay.
engineering background. I didn't know.
Okay.
And,
he
because
very well might
being a
be-
lifeguard, I didn't know that was being the consultant. I didn't know,
Can't find-
Unfortunately, I'm not
Yeah.
able to find the email right now. I could confirm.
if he was an engineer or something like that, we can maybe make a known that
Yeah.
But
this is
I
his
gotta
background.
say, we have to start asking some of these questions before the meeting. The Sunstroms are Cape May people. This is a guy who comes to the meetings, he wants to be part of the committee. Let's put him on. We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager,
Yes.
Mayor Mullick.
Yes.
Next, we have 6302, 2022, resolution appointing members to the Cape May City Planning Board.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Anybody second? I'll second.
I pull this because I'd like to remove John Malloy as alternate number 1. He's only lived in Cape May, I think it was less than 9 months. He grew up in Wildwood Crest. I think we should be finding people that have more roots in Cape May, that understand Cape May as a whole, before we put them on the planning board. So I'd like to make a motion to take off John Malloy as alternate number 1.
I think Councilmember or Deputy Mayor Sheen's concern is valid, and I think we should work harder on recruiting more hometown residents. People have lived here for many years. People grew up here. And I second that motion, and I want to say that when in these meetings, a lot of people do not refer to street numbers and addresses. They refer to a specific house or a specific style of house. That it's kind of unique knowledge that you gain after living in Cape May for such a long time.
John Malloy is a young man in Cape May. He's married. He lives here with his wife. Grew up in Wildwood Crest, that far-off, distant land. Was a lifeguard. Went to Boston College. Went to Georgetown Law. Just a nice young man that lives in town. His brother's in the Olympics. He's, I could list off a bunch of great things about the Malloy family. And again, I have spoken to every council member on this. We advertised this position for over 2 months, and I've mentioned his name to every council member here and heard no issues with it prior to right now.
Well, I didn't get his phone number up until the other day. He didn't apply for this position until Monday.
No, he's been discussing this for over a month.
And I can honestly say that I spoke to him, and I have all the confidence in the world that he would do a great job on the planning board. Spoke to him personally, probably about a 15-minute conversation. He loves this town of Cape May. Okay, so he's only been a resident for a short time, but he doesn't come from that far away.
But you have to understand the characteristics and what is different about Cape May. Cape May is a lot different than Wildwood Crest. So what's good for Wildwood Crest is not always necessarily good for Cape May. And I think there's a lot of other people that would like to be on this planning board that have lived in Cape May longer and would bring more to the table. And that's, it has nothing to do with him. I just think that it's what's best for the committee.
I understand what you're saying, Deputy Mayor, as far as people living in Cape May and having that, understanding the city. But when we advertise something for a long period of time, nobody applies for it. And I'm not sure changing. Yeah, I mean, he's a very fine candidate, and
But just so you know, I also brought candidates up to the mayor to discuss with him months ago, and he was supposed to call these people and hasn't.
Wait, whoa.
I did.
Do you know how many people you have nominated that we've appointed? I can't believe you want to go there. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's, I just think there's certain people that bring more to the table, that's all. And
There's
we
a motion,
haven't-
there's a
we
motion,
haven't-
there's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Wait,
On the amended.
The motion is to remove
Right.
okay.
Malloy as alternate one. Councilmember Baldwin?
No.
Councilmember Meyer?
No.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
I'm sorry I was remiss in all this. I really wish I had had the chance to talk to him, but tonight I've heard good things about him. It may be a little bit risky, but I'm going to have to say no.
Mayor Mullick?
No.
Since we're in a motion, Mayor, I want to apologize to council. I just wanted to put it out there that we should consider that a little more. I just feel strongly believe in it, and it's not this individual against it all, but I'd like to move forward and think about that a little more. That's all.
We have another open position, and I will be happy to hear other nominations, which I've been open to hearing nominations from everybody. That's been an important part of being mayor for me, is trying to reach out to everybody to hear from everybody. It shouldn't just be one person selecting the whole thing. That's been a problem in the past. So I make the motion that we appoint John Malloy to the planning board.
I'll second it.
If I could recommend, because there are other moving parts to this resolution, so are you specifically just appointing him, or are you adopting
Doing-
Resolution 6302, 2022 as presented?
I'll make the motion to appoint him, and I'll leave it up to council whether he's position 2, 1, I don't care.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion as I stated, to appoint him to the planning board.
So 1 and 2 are vacant? Is that what I'm getting at?
No,
Mr. Mayor?
there's, and like,
There is a Class 4 vacancy
Class-
right now,
I
and an alternate 2 vacancy currently. So this Resolution 63 proposes to move our current alternate 1, who is Rick Ludholm, to the vacant Class 4 position, to then appoint John Malloy to alternate 1, and then we still have a vacant position in alternate 2, of which I've received 2 letters of interest this evening in
But-
person, which I will be distributing to council tomorrow.
But the mayor is proposing that we could move him to alternate 2 and still name another candidate to alternate 1,
That'd be fine with me.
which would give him more time on the board
Yes.
before moving up.
And more experience.
yeah.
My experience on the zoning board and planning board, you want the people who've had the time to move up. I think Rick Lundholm should move up. I think
Oh, no, that's not what they're saying.
it's not what you're saying.
No. They're moving up Rick, but there's alternate 1 and 2, they're still vacant.
Right. So this individual should be alternate 1, and the next person
And the
should be
next
alternate
person
2. So when his next opportunity to move up, alternate 1 would move into that position, and then everybody moves up accordingly. I think that's appropriate.
Okay, so I'll make the motion as the resolution is stated. And if, again, and I mean this in all sincerity, if anybody wants him to be alternate 2 instead of 1, I'm fine with that. I'd be happy to entertain that, but I make the motion as the resolution reads.
I'll second that.
Any comment, question?
I'm just going to comment, I'll be voting no, and it has nothing to do with Ricky or John Malloy. It's just that I think people that should be appointed to the board should have more experience, time living in Cape May, and understand what Cape May is all about.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
No?
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullick?
Yes.
Finally, we have 6502-2022, resolution authorizing a professional services contract for Vincent P. Cerrubi Esquire of Archer and Griner PC as special counsel to the city of Cape May. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped
64.
64. 6402-2022, resolution in support of the County of Cape May plans to improve Pittsburgh Avenue, County Road number 622.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Yes. Second.
Just, again, compliments to Mr. Yeager. Thank you for getting that in good shape for our review.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
It was, thank you.
Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullock?
Yes.
Now we have 6502-2022, resolution authorizing a professional services contract with Vincent P. Cerrubi Esquire of Archer and Griner as special counsel to the city of Cape May.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
No.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mayor Mullock?
Yes.
Is it important to let the public know what that resolution is for specifically?
Sure.
Sure. This is a resolution to appoint special counsel Vince Cerrubi of Archer and Griner, who is a former Camden County prosecutor, and he's going to provide special counsel to the city of Cape May on the matters relating to the COA Trust Fund.
Thank you.
Okay, old business?
business.
Old business. Any old business, anybody? No? New business, city solicitor?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. City manager, anything further?
No, nothing tonight.
Okay, city clerk?
Yes, Council, I just want to make note, and we have Chief Ashall here if you'd like to speak to this further, but the city's existing code red system has been replaced by Nixle. That's been in use in surrounding municipalities with great success. And there are different ways you can sign up for that, and I see the chief getting up, and he knows far more about it than I do.
Once again, not to belabor the subject of Nixle, but it's a very important subject that we're moving towards. Today, I worked with Casey Radigan, who's our director from Convention Hall. She assisted me in updating our webpage, our city webpage, which links to our police department's webpage. There's some instructions on there. The old Code Red tab has been removed. An added Nixle tab has been added. And in that, there's some instructions on the layperson to sign up.
Chief, can I ask you?
Yes, sir.
If you're comfortable to remove your mask, it's hard to hear.
Sorry. So to back up, we've updated our current system. So our webpage, the city webpage, we work with Casey Radigan today to update the website to add Nixle, removing Code Red. That's our old system. We put some specific instructions for the people to sign up. I added a phone number to that, 609-884-9514. That is my support staff, Aliana Freddy. You can call her. She'll walk you through it. If there's somebody that's older or not so savvy with their cell phone, I've instructed her to go out and meet with them in the public. We can meet you here in City Hall anytime. So you just call that number again, 609-884-9514. I've spoken to the Taxpayers Association as well. I've added the information to Mr. Crowley. He's going to be putting that out.
Perfect.
Also, Ms. Radigan is going to add a piece of paper that goes into our mailer, not our mailer, but I think it's our tax bill in June, or one of the bills that goes out in June or July. Also, what's it? The City News that goes out in that as well. So we're moving fastly with that program. We saw it work in action if you signed up for Everbridge over the weekend, over the storm. I did turn some of the features off that wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning. They will be, you can turn those features off. You'll still get the email when you wake up. But if there is a life-threatening event that happens, my lieutenants, my detectives, and myself are well-versed in it. We can activate it overnight and make sure that the alerts are getting through. So we're not going to miss a tornado or a hurricane in the middle of the night because it wasn't activated.
Right.
It was just the tides have risen or the snow's blowing, it's blizzard conditions, that you should be home anyway in a state of emergency. So we did change that. So I like the Nixle system. It's user-friendly, and we can put it out as quick as we can. So we definitely will use that.
That's great. Chief, I know you were working on it, and I don't know if it's finished yet, but the phone lines are a touchy subject right now, but for the outside. I know they're working on the emergency phone outside here.
Yeah, that's installed. So if you, to the public and the community, we've added the downstairs ring down phone. That's the red
great.
phone, looks like a bat phone, is downstairs. So as we move through this transition, this transition with county dispatch and make the recommendations that came from council, that the people of Cape May want to stay that way and have that connectivity to our city.
Right.
So we've added the phone downstairs. We're going to be locking this doorway here and the upstairs doorway so the public can come in after hours and be able to pick up the phone and get a police officer in a matter of moments. They're
Right.
called directly to county dispatch and will be dispatched in moments to
Perfect.
us.
Thank you. Any other?
I just, while I have the floor, I kind of wanted to add, it's probably not my position to do so, but I think I feel that I should. With regards to these council, or these committees that we have and the outsiders that come in and people, I hire from outside, and I do definitely, I can call myself a lifetime resident of Cape May. I grew up here. I've worked here for over 25 years, 27 years, served here, skated here when it was legal, when it wasn't. You know, because if you know Cape May, there was times you couldn't skateboard here, but now you can. I drank Clarkie slushies. I know Cape May, so specifically a couple different topics. The Sundstrom family. I lived in their home when my house burnt down. I grew up with his kids. Because they don't live here anymore, they lived in the Crest or wherever. That's a slight on that family, I feel, in that regard. Because just because you've moved away or you've now moved into Cape May, if you moved to Cape May, you did so for a reason. You did so because you have read something in one of these articles that has brought your attention back to the city of Cape May. 9 months, 9 years, 90 years. Cape May is Cape May, and we sometimes need that outside influence or opinion. Respectfully, the Deputy Mayor, I feel that's, yes, that the person that has lived here for 50 years, 70 years, they might have more carnal knowledge, but that doesn't mean that we don't accept outside knowledge. So Ricky Lundholm, for instance, he worked here for however many years, grew up here, same thing. For even a question for that, or Mr. Malloy, who I don't know, I feel someone wants to join a committee on this in this city, some conversation should go into what their knowledge base is, but to thwart them and pull someone from inside the city that doesn't necessarily, or lived here longer, that's not fair. I think that's discriminatory. And in fact, I think it's more of a slight that we don't accept outside opinion. And if you look at the mayor spoke about it months ago with as far as our quota, not our quota, but our I lost my place there. What am I looking for? The census. We're losing people. We don't have people living here. So the people that are buying properties are outsiders. They're outsiders. They don't live here. They're buying these $1 million properties and adding to our tax base. You have to take some of their comments to heart, because if they're buying property here, they're vested. And I've always been against the squatters and the people that don't live here, and kind of like a little offstandish, but we're changing, and we need to accept that.
I just want to comment on the committees. Committees are making recommendations based on tax purposes, should taxes be raised, different things and things like that. That's where, when you're talking about any improvements of costs for tax dollars, it should be coming from residents that live in the city that's going to affect them. To have somebody else come in that doesn't live in town saying, you know what we should do? We should do this, this, and this. It doesn't affect them because they're not going to be paying for it.
Correct.
And that's why I feel that somebody that lives in town should be put on a committee before somebody from the outside, unless they're bringing in some special skill to that.
Correct. I
that
totally
committee.
agree to that. Mr. Roush, how long have you lived here? Respectfully.
Maybe I've owned property in Cape May or Cape May Point for over 40 years.
Okay, Mr. Crowley. Okay, so not long time, short time for some, you know? So we highly regard their comments on this floor, and we give them the floor for a long time. So I respect your position, Deputy Mayor, but I just think it's one of those things where we just have to take the newcomer sometimes at heart as well.
Well, you know, it's like years ago, you had to live in town if you were a police officer.
Years
Why?
ago.
Because of the taxes. You were conscientious that You worked here, therefore you knew what the taxpayers were paying for the services.
I can't get a cop in Cape May to save my life. Thank you.
Well, we had a couple. I actually do have one that lives in town.
All right, any,
Next, we're at council members' comment, actually.
council members' comments? Okay. Councilwoman Baldwin?
I'm just going to piggyback on what Deacon talked about as far as the kind of public safety and let you know, Council, that probably this week there's going to be the specifications coming for the speakers from Convention Hall all the way down to Wilmington. So that's been something that we've been working on pretty hard as far as the Beach Safety Committee.
That's great.
Working with Casey Radigan, Henry Back, Chief Ashall, Alex Coulter. The whole committee has really done a great job.
That's great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Meyer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was thinking, we plan on putting on a resolution in support of the Lafayette Street Park and encourage anybody else to get involved in that process too.
Lafayette Street.
I'm sorry, Lafayette Street, excuse me, thank you. And, to go along with what Dennis was saying, people are laughing as they come into town. I think there's a lot of people crying when they drive their beautiful cars into town too. I think we have to definitely get on this. Would it be a good recommendation to invite somebody from the county? Or would that just be too much attention after one person,
Well, I think, I think that's a good idea. I think we should try with some letters and push a little bit before we get the tomatoes out. But there may be a tomato time.
Okay,
Maybe photos, too.
Right.
photos, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of think that it's even possible to just have, start that out with a conversation with somebody
yeah.
from the county.
Right.
yeah.
And I'd be glad to talk, Bob's not the guy that makes that call, but I'd be glad to have a conversation with him to say, what's up with this and why can't we change the priorities?
Well, I think we already did.
And so that did happen?
Or, yeah.
We-
And if we're getting not the answers that we want, then we need to go
It
higher up in the county
Well, I think,
Yeah.
chain.
And that's,
I think as individual council members, we can also, solicit the people that we know or are comfortable talking to in the county. So at least if
Right.
they talk with their colleagues,
right.
their colleagues will know what they're talking about too. I think if we all just do a blanket campaign on this thing, I think
I know Mr. Belasco did try to warn Bob Church that the tomatoes may be coming if he doesn't. So we gave him the warning, then we'll give him the letter, and we'll see what goes on. But I do think, obviously, a resolution from council will dictate what all of council wants to do. So, and we will have that on the next agenda.
Cool.
Okay, good? Okay.
thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Meyer?
That's all I have.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
I just have a couple things. The budget is coming up, and I think it's very important that council gets those budget books before the day of the meeting, that we have time to review them so that we can ask questions. Getting them the day of the meeting, a binder that's this thick, it doesn't help us to be able to ask educated questions and become knowledgeable what our questions are. The second has to do with, I go through the bills, and there's a lot of bills or refunds for parking meters for 50 cents, $1, $3. Can we make a resolution that no one gets a refund unless it's over like $3 or $5?
Part of the issue is that the machine spits out a refund ticket, the kiosks. So it tells them that they're going to get a refund, and then they come in to get their refund, and we have to put it on.
I mean, it costs us more to give them the 50-cent
Well,
refund.
some of the new kiosks we were looking at, that was one of our criteria, was that there not be refund tickets.
Well, even if they give them a refund ticket, can we still say we don't give refunds? Or even put a note on there saying we don't give refunds over, because what we're spending, when I say, we're talking like, I'll get like 15 of them for 50 cents.
The idea that somebody's coming in for that is interesting in its own
They are.
concept, but Look,
Really?
the legal question, can you not issue a refund? I mean, no, we have to give people notice what we're doing. We have to codify it, and we have to put notice on those machines, what we're doing either way. So I think what we want to do is say, one, download the app, stop putting in $10 bills in there because we're not issuing change for it, or make it a minimum bill amount so that, you know, we're not encountering this problem where we're writing checks for 60 cents. I mean, that's insane. But I think what the deputy manager is saying is, I think we were looking at simplifying the actual parking meter process
No,
to eliminate that.
Now, they can't change that so it doesn't spit it out?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because what it comes down to is these people call up, like Pat DiArco, she has to stay on the phone with them, explain to them what has to be done, and then they come in, they have to give the paperwork to Jason to do all the refund, then we have to,
The reality
Yeah.
is every, like, I think major city uses Park Mobile or whatever app, and someone in the car should have a smartphone at this point and be able to log into the app.
Only parking.
Right. And that eliminates it entirely. And when you're on the beach, then you don't have to run back to the meter. I think part of it's the policy that council wants to go after. I think doing completely mobile would eliminate that entirely, but if we want to eliminate it piecemeal, I think we got to put some signage on there or do some minimum bills.
These days, when we discuss outdoor dining, is when we start discussing what we want to do with our parking meters and beach tags. But it is, we do have to look at it for the future when we do our parking, for sure. Okay. Anything else, Deputy Mayor?
I just wanted to bring up that actually in the August 17 minutes, I saw this, that Mr. Vol expressed an interest of putting four-way stop signs on New Jersey Avenue to slow the speed down. I think I sent everybody the Federal Code of Regulations that says you cannot put four-way stops to slow traffic down because it actually increases speed between the stop signs. So I hope we're not looking to put those four-way stops on New Jersey Avenue. We're not going to be doing that?
Not in the game plan right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Yeager?
The only thing I have is I want to plug I had my first meeting as council liaison with the Environmental Commission last week, and I was pretty impressed with, they've got a set plan for this year. They had a lot of accomplishments last year, and I wanted to commend that group, and their first focus this year is going to be on water conservation, education, which I think is great, and hope we can all help them out in moving in that direction. So, a good group of people.
Yeah, I think doing that water conservation is a great idea, so, because we should be conserving our water, and so that we're not going through those millions of gallons a day.
Absolutely. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just quickly, I again want to commend the hard work of our Department of Public Works, our police and fire over the last few days. Several people have mentioned it, but they did an excellent job of keeping us safe and getting us through the storm. So I thank them, and we'll open it up now for public comment. Anybody wishing to come to the microphone? City Clerk, I don't want to take your role.
Come on up, state your name and address for the record, and please try to keep it to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm amazed I can still walk after sitting here for 3 hours. Bonnie Castles, 914 Columbia Avenue. I echo what you just said about the Department of Public Works and the police and the fire over the weekend. They worked hard. Unusual conditions for Cape May, but they do occasionally happen. I have a couple questions about Nixle. I did sign up for it. I got the many messages to tell me there was a blizzard coming. But and on the pictures that were posted of all the work that the police and the fire were doing, cleaning the fire hydrants, I did see the picture of the cots, and I didn't know where they were. But I assumed they were for like an emergency shelter, but I didn't hear any communication. Was that from the OEM?
No, the cots were at the West Cape May Firehouse. They were for our police officers that could not make it home.
Okay, so there wasn't shelter for the public if
No, we did
the
not.
power went out.
We did not open up the shelter, no.
Okay. What, like, are emergency messages now coming from the police department? Are they coming from OEM? What's the process?
Chief.
So the one thing we wanted to do, Ms. Castle, was have a central location for them to come, so everybody wasn't responsible for messages. So in speaking with the fire chief, in speaking with Mr. Elwell at OEM, the city manager's office, the mayor even, when we have anything that comes up of light, even I've spoken to Harry back as well, so at some discussion with high surf and issues where we're closing beaches, those messages will be funneled or directed to myself and my staff. So we've all been trained in the department, both lieutenants, my detective division, Kelly Shustak, will be trained to put the messages out. So they're merely for emergencies. We're not looking to put like bread sales or bake sales on there because we've been asked to do that on our emergency sign at times. And we like to do that, but that's not what it's for. I was given specific tasks or instructions on how the thing was supposed to be rolled out. The city pays for it, and it's for emergencies, and we will have some street closures are on there for that as well. And the cots you did see, they were at the West Cape May Fire Department. They were at the hall there. Mostly the fire department members slept on there because they had some extra firemen in to work the shift as well, so to get some rest in between the shifts that we were out there. And again, thanks, Council, for acknowledging it, and yourself for acknowledging it, because those conditions, we haven't seen those in a while. Even in 2010, when we had a major storm, we didn't see that kind of drifting and blowing,
And the temperatures, too.
The temperatures were horrible, and the hydrants being shoveled out in those conditions, the fire department, that's clearly a testament to who they are. My staff as well being on the street, and you acknowledging that, I appreciate that, because we have to be on the street for you to check properties. We can't just hunker down and say, let's wait it out. That's not what we do.
What happens with the folks that either haven't gotten the message about signing up for Nixle, or they don't have the technology that allows them to access?
So those that haven't gotten the message because they don't have social media or they're not online, I've worked with Casey, and I'm going to be working with Ms. Burke as well to try to get those out in some leaflets. The taxpayers, they have their, what do you call that, Dennis? E-newsletter. Their e-newsletter, and anybody
That's
that...
technology.
Technology, so we'll do our
And
best. We can put it in the Star and Wave, the paper.
In the city news.
And the city news, so that's going to go out
all
in
the
that's a
taxpayers.
paper form. So I don't pay for the Star. Is it the Star and Wave we use?
Cape May County Herald is
Cape
our
May County
primary.
Herald. So I don't. So if there's something that needs to be put in there, I can. I've sent a few things to Aaron. I can send something written to them so they can read that. I can go to Victorian Towers. I can go wherever you need to sign people up,
Well, and-
just like we did with COVID.
And I'm thinking Lafayette Street and the public housing.
So with them, I've spoken to Mary Ann Frankel over there. She's going to be getting out in their leaflet there because they have some documents. They actually do a lot of email, but they do send some things in mail, and they'll put them in each mailbox for them to sign up.
Okay, cool.
I'll make sure that happens. And anywhere else you feel that I've missed, please give me a call. You and I've spoken before, so just give me a call and
Chief,
say you're missing this.
Chief, I think, let's add it to the water bill, too, when we do
I'll do that,
next.
too.
Unless it goes to a postcard, then we won't.
Anything else, Ms. Castle?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other public comment, Dennis?
Thank you once again. I just want to say two things. Number one, on behalf of the MTRAC committee, the previous council created the MTRAC committee, and this council staffed it and put it to work. And there's been a lot of work done, but I think it's more important to realize that as the council took these actions, they've actually listened and have absorbed and have made a real effort to listen to what the recommendations are and how they affect and change them to the good. And I want to commend this council for acting once again on two of our recommendations tonight. It's been a very busy year for the MTRAC, and we've created a busy year for the council, and we do appreciate your attention, your cooperation, and your support of what we recommend, and I want to thank you for that. The second thing is, it's been a long time on this Lafayette. I've listened to the conversation, this Lafayette Street thing. It wouldn't hurt to have somebody from the committee, the county government, come to this meeting as soon as possible. It's been long enough, and we want to be nice and we want to be polite, but letters and communications it doesn't substitute for the fact that it's been long enough. We want to hear a human being tell us why we're not important. And I think that needs to be done as soon as possible, hopefully the next meeting. But it needs to be done quick because the city is not, the city's being disrespected. And I think we should take the next step. We don't want to throw tomatoes at anybody, but we want to hear the person who could be the target of a tomato to hear why a tomato could be thrown if they don't do something for us as soon as possible. So thanks a lot for your help and your support. Appreciate it.
I agree. Mr. Roush?
Jules Roush, 1010 New York Avenue. I'd like to echo what everybody has had to say about Public Works. They did a great job. I mean, they were out early, they were out all night, and those of us who like to be able to get our cars out, were able to do it. So we appreciate that. This evening I passed out, with the exception of two people, a contractor's suggestion of conduct. And Chief, I did not get one to you yet, but I will. That's my suggestion. I would like very much for you to review it, evaluate whether you think it's worthwhile. Having been in that business for many, many years, I can understand the value that coming to a contractor and reminding them and the subcontractors of what their obligation is in a town like Cape May. With the budget coming up, I'd like to comment that, we've allowed the commercial businesses to have the city taxpayer paying for their recycling collection. I think it's time to look at that and have them pay for their own collection. It's not a moneymaker as it was years ago. It now costs the city. I think it should be another thing that's looked at as being revenue neutral. And if it's going to cost them money, then they should pay for it. I was very happy to see the last resolution adopted this evening with the employment of outside counsel for COA. However, I'd written something that I'd like to read to you. This is my opinion about the affordable housing. This is individual taxpayers' money. Everybody that builds in this town has to kick in a certain amount of money that our assessor determines. And that's paid into the COA account. After this is a restricted revenue escrow account. And these restricted funds can only be used for a specific purpose and no other. As prescribed by law, City Council and city employees have a fiduciary obligation to follow the New Jersey mandates, and failure to comply is not only a breach of the purpose, but a violation of law. For 13 months, this administration has delayed to act aggressively, but you've changed that procedure, and seek recovery of approximately $114,000 that was illegally distributed or paid out to certain employees. The Fair Share Housing Department has notified the city of their intention to hold the city liable, that means the taxpayer, to repay these monies to the COA account. The result is some individuals are going to pay twice. Those individually as a requirement of their construction project, and secondly, as taxpayers. Let's be clear, this city council has no alternative but to seek legal recovery from each and every person that participated in this payment scheme. In my view, every person involved had knowledge that the COA funds were for a specific purpose to benefit housing in Cape May. And their acceptance was an ill-gotten gain for personal benefit, as they did nothing to be compensated for. There may be a case to be made that each individual's acceptance of the funds makes each person an equal participant in the fraudulent act and may be prosecuted if they do not voluntarily refund the monies immediately. Time is of the essence, and I encourage City Council to act immediately to collect the monies. Waiting will only weaken your case to demand repayment. So I'm happy, very happy that you've hired a counsel, and I hope they proceed quickly to get our money back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roush. I think everybody up here would probably like to comment on that, but I'm sure that our solicitor would recommend that we don't. But believe me, I'm sure a lot of opinions up here that I'm sure people would like to say, but we're not going to.
I'm just going to say this. I disagree with the premise that the city, one, did not take this seriously from the get-go. I'm not going to get into personnel matters. I'm not going to get into matters that are covered by attorney-client privilege, and there's very good reasons for that. I appreciate the public interest in this issue, and I am happy to say on the record that I've said this before in previous meetings, and in an email to you, Mr. Roush, that the city takes this very seriously, and the step that the city took tonight is not the first step. It is in a series of steps that the city has taken, which is consistent with the position that the city wants to get this resolved in the least impactful way to the taxpayers. And I have no problem saying that for council and for the city of Cape May. But this is a complex matter that requires time and care. And that's really all that I can say about that right now.
And I'll just say the last thing, and again, I know everybody wants to say more than this, but for you know this, Mr. Roush, but many people might not. We were handed this, and we immediately made it public. We immediately took action through resolution to make sure it didn't happen again. I recognize that that does not fix the issue when it comes to the funds itself, but we did immediately take action to make sure it didn't happen again. And again, did that in a very public way through a resolution. Again, I'd like to say a lot more, but I can't at this point. Any other comment from the public? Motion to adjourn? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.